It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, our 11th anniversary episode. 11 years ago today, we started doing Twit. I think the conversation has changed a little bit over time. Iain Thompson and Ben Thompson join me, the Thompson twins, to talk about Microsoft's announcements at F8, bots, and more. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Twit This Week in Tech, episode 558, recorded Sunday, April 17th, 2016. Rattlesnake in the Pinata. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter the promo code TWIT for 30% off your entire order. And by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what they're paying now, go to harrys.com. For a limited time, new customers can get a free trial and pay just $3 for shipping by going to harrys.com/twit. And by audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum Plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/twit2. And don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter. User ID audible_com. And by Gazelle, the online marketplace for buying and selling used gadgets. Shop from a variety of certified pre-owned electronics or trade one in for cash. Give new life to a used device at gazelle.com today. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. And friends, I'm just going to sit back and bathe in the brilliance of our panel this week. It's fitting because this is our 11th anniversary episode, the first Twit, which at the time was called The Revenge of the Screensavers, was broadcast or released to the wild. We didn't stream it live. We didn't do video. We only did audio. We only did 25 minutes on April 17th, 2005 with Patrick Norton and Robert Heron and Kevin Rose, my old friends from Tech TV, and that's how we began 11 years ago on this day.
Good grief.
And fast forward, and it's been a wonderful ride. There it is. In fact, it's still online if you want to go to twit.tv/twit/1. You can hear the first episode. Now, I had to bleep out the word screensavers because shortly after I recorded that, I got a letter, cease and desist letter from G4 Tech TV, which had bought the show and bought the network.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Saying you can't use that name. So we couldn't call it The Revenge of the Screensavers. I asked our audience to come up with a name. They came up with This Week in Geek was my favorite. Then I thought, what if I were This Week in Tech? Then we could call ourselves Twits, which that seemed like a good idea at the time. We had a competition for the logo, and wonderful logo from Lori LeBeau Walsh that we're still using. So it was, and at the time we distributed it via BitTorrent because I didn't have any bandwidth, and that was the only way we could get it out.
Oh, good grief. But everyone says, Bitcoin and BitTorrent was killing the media industry, and you've done it very nicely.
Yeah. So thank you for the card. By the way, Iain brought me a very nice card with a Wayne Thiebaud painting on the front of birthday cakes, and we have our own cake. Now, you all in the other, you've been waiting to get in this cake. I said you couldn't have the cake till we started the show. You may now come and take your cake. And Iain wants a piece, and Ben, I'll send you one. You'll get it sometime next year. Nice stale piece of birthday cake. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, where's Waldo? Well, we know he works for us now. Thank you, Chris. So, how you doing, Ben Thompson from Stratechery?
Good, and congratulations. I'm honored to be here on the anniversary. I think so. 11 years ago, I don't know. I remember listening to you pretty early. I don't know if I listened to that episode per se, but 2005 or 2005 or so. That sounds
long time.
I remember I was working on. I remember the project I was working on, and this idea of I could listen to podcasts at the same time.
That's neat. Were you at Nokia
awesome.
then? Where were you?
No, I was in Taipei. I was building out a computer-based teaching system for English schools.
Oh, that's
cool. I mean, I started out an itinerant world wanderer before I actually
You worked at Apple. You didn't work at Nokia. It was Apple and Microsoft, right?
Yeah, that was a couple years later. Came back to the U.S. in 2009.
And Ben now is all on his own with his website Stratechery, which is there's a wonderful free article every week, which I read religiously. But I'm also a subscriber to the newsletter. It's well worth it, and he is one of the best analysts out there. I'm really thrilled and honored that you could be here on our 11th anniversary episode. So thank you for joining us. I know it's early morning in Taipei.
It is, and because there's no daylight savings time here, it is earlier than it is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When I'm here in the winter. No, it's fine.
Well, thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Also with us from the register.co.uk, another great friend of the network, Iain Thompson. We can't get enough of you. You know, it's Thompson and Thompson. We got the Thompson twins.
Yeah, I know. Hergé is marvelous, and they're also the band, the Thompson twins, as well. So
yeah, and it's Tantan, right? There's the Thompson twins and Tantan. So everybody, there we go. All the illusions you could ever want. Iain Thompson, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Always fun.
I know. We could start. We before the show we started talking about Tesla, and actually, what we'll do is we'll take that conversation and we'll go to it right now because I thought it was a very interesting conversation about You did a good piece a couple of weeks or maybe last week about the rollout of the Model 3. Ben, it says Tesla's really a real car company now.
No, that's not exactly what I said.
Oh, I read it, but I obviously didn't. I just didn't understand it, and that's probably.
Well, that's the real question. I think that my broader point was that there's something very powerful that they've built here, particularly from a branding perspective, and it could only have been done from the high end.
They were very smart. And you know what? They played it very gutsily because you know that he bootstrapped the whole thing, and that it really wasn't viable until he showed that he could sell them in mass quantities.
Well, it's not clear that it's viable. That's still the open question. I mean, they're a company that's still. What's the thing about Tesla is they, in their financial statements, they when they calculate like their gross margin, their cost of goods sold, R&D is not included. Which is typical for a tech company. Usually for a tech company, the cost of goods sold is only the actual cost of the goods in whatever the device is, like an iPhone, and the R&D cost is separate. For a traditional car company, that's not the case. Usually the R&D cost is included in the calculation of gross margin, that sort of thing. If you calculated Tesla's financials like you would a traditional car company, they'd be losing money on every car sold, and a significant amount of money. And the problem is there's not any evidence that they can manufacture this car for the price that they said they can manufacture it at. That said, to your point, I mean, if they can pull it off, like basically all they have to do is actually do what they say they're going to do, and they are going to be, very successful, much more successful than most people realized. And the way they came at the high end and built this powerful brand is a big part of that. I mean, it's certainly fascinating to watch. I mean, it really is the new Apple, not just from a branding perspective, but in the passion and fervor of their fans' perspective, as I discovered.
Yeah. Did you get in line?
I did. Just kind of like, why not?
Why not?
But
well, and as you make the
no
point that it's refundable
one,
$1,000, it's not like they get to keep the money or anything.
Right. I mean, I'm fortunate that I can, afford to go, without that money for who knows how long.
Yeah, but it's kind of a nice long-term loan to Elon and company.
The problem is, right now you can't buy Teslas in Taiwan, which is a pain. Although just a couple weeks ago, someone found like a company registration from Tesla, like maybe they might be going on sale soon. The other problem is just the infrastructure here is tougher. Everyone lives in these big.
That's the real issue.
Condominium.
Where do you charge it? Yeah,
right, exactly.
That's what's held back electric cars until now, is that it was massively inconvenient. But I think that's changed a lot.
Well, I mean, if that's part of it for sure. I think what I appreciate about Tesla and what I appreciate about the approach and the way they've built this brand is, and kind of the point of the article that I wrote was, the article was called "It's a Tesla." Is I'm not convinced that those 300,000 people or however many have registered now are really that interested in buying an electric car. I mean, certainly that plays a part in what it means to be a Tesla and why they're excited. But it doesn't follow that just because 300,000 people put $1,000 on a Tesla, that there's a big market for the Chevy Bolt, for example. What is so great about what Elon Musk has accomplished with this is not to be trite about it, but he made electric cool. And that's something, and if you go back and read his master plan, people have talked about, he's paying it forward and paying for future cars. There's not really that much evidence that's happened, but there's a line in there that talks about if we want electric to change, to take over the automotive world, we have to make it, like, basically he says it has to be cool, and that's what he has absolutely accomplished, and that's what's so impressive. And certainly more power to him.
Yeah, and I think getting that many reservations probably makes it easier to go to the investment market and say,
absolutely,
give me money.
Absolutely. That's
the real point, really, right?
Absolutely, because everything they've done has been paid for primarily by issuing stock or taking on debt.
Nothing but lose money from day one.
Right, and this makes that possible. And certainly there's the cost of batteries is coming down. That really is the controlling factor. I mean, I think the battery in the Model S costs like $35,000 on its own.
Wow.
Which is really a bunch of tiny batteries all wrapped together. And there's the extent that, he said something on the last earnings call, basically that with the Model S, they were trying to figure out how to make a car, whereas with the Model 3, they can really build it for manufacturing, build it for scale. And that's totally valid. Like, that makes a ton of sense, and there's no question they'll be able to move on the cost curve much more efficiently with the Model 3, simply because they know what they're doing. Because remember, the Roadster, they didn't really build. They built it, but that's about the drivetrain. Right, that's about figuring out how to build an engine, basically. Model S is about figuring out car.
I think this is a real case study in how to bootstrap a business. It's quite fascinating. He's quite smart, quite gutty too, because I'm sure the day before they opened up the orders for Model 3, he's like on tenterhooks, because here's an opportunity to go big and really go home, or if it's a flop, they don't have a company. So it could have gone either way, and I think that it went as well as it could possibly have gone for him.
I was trying to think when the last time you actually saw people queuing up outside a motor show sales room in order to actually buy a car.
Yeah.
And it's virtually unheard of. I can't think of it happening with any other. The question is, can he ramp up production quickly enough? That's going to be absolutely key.
He has a real problem now because he has 5 years of orders.
Exactly, and they need to be fulfilled before people lose interest.
He has to give people in a year, and I think that's where he goes to the equity markets and says, "Okay, we need to take this NUMMI plant, which could be really expanded. I think he's only using like a fourth or a fifth of the capacity, and maybe build more. And he's going to have the Giga battery factory goes online in time. That's part of it too."
It's also going to need some serious supplies of lithium and various other elements just to actually get the whole thing up and running.
You feel like, though, this was a very well-played chess game. Like, he kind of he took big chances. It was a big gambit. But I think he saw the end game at the beginning, and he knew where he was headed, and he did a very good job. Now,
but I think the only caveat, and the reason I started with this, and like I said, I wrote the article I wrote was very admiring of this, and really he's done it different than the kind of traditional business approach has said that he should or whatever. And I think it's because brand matters and making electric cool matters. I guess the only caveat I would say is that he hasn't won yet. Things are looking great. You could not be in a better position given his strategy. But the actual hard part, and that feels stupid to say because everything they've accomplished has been so incredible and against the odds already, which is why you don't want to bet against the guy. But if you look at it objectively, the real hard part really is now, because this is of a scale of complexity and difficulty, and they've pushed all the chips in the table now, and it's gonna be it's gonna be absolutely fascinating to watch. If they can deliver at the price they need to and in the quantities they need to, and because the other thing that's so risky about this is, and I think Iain just made the point very well, is they're risking not just the company, but the brand. The brand is the value that they've built right now.
Absolutely.
And if they don't deliver this car on time, if they don't deliver it to the point they deliver it to, and if it takes years, then it's going to be that much more damaging to them. If GM screws with the Bolt, no one cares. It's GM; they screw up everything. Like so, it's super high risk, but it's risk goes both ways. There's upside risk and downside risk, and the upside risk is massive with the approach they've taken.
And it's kind of nice that they're trying to save the world too. It's kind of a.
It does seem ridiculous. We're still burning very valuable hydrocarbons in this day and age when we could be using electricity, which I think also going further ahead, electric cars offer one huge advantage, which is if you can put motors on all four wheels, the performance and cornering ability of these cars just goes through the roof. We're going to see there's a hill climb event in California later on this year, and their electric cars are outpacing petrol engine cars simply because they can independently control their wheels, and they just go like rails.
True all-wheel drive. Yeah, yeah. The X and most of the S's, but not all the threes have two engines, one for each axle, but they don't have four engines yet. That would be nice.
That would be. I mean, I think originally that's going to be the remit of racing cars, but it'll come. These things filter down.
I just feel like Elon would be a dangerous opponent in poker.
I was thinking bridge, but yeah, the guy strategizes so far ahead down the line. It's just
smart guy.
Well, and the real advantage he has is, and this is the power of being, mission driven. Is if he fails, if Tesla does not successfully make the Model 3 for the price he says, and all this sort of stuff, at what's the worst that happens? One, he accelerated the move down the curve when it comes to batteries. Two, to the kind of point of the article, he made electric cool in a way that certainly a company like GM was going to. He's motivated the car companies to really accelerate their efforts in this space. And if his goal is not just to build a successful company, but to really shift the world in a meaningful way, away from carbon-based transportation, I mean, that's a nice sort of that's a nice failure option if that's your real goal. And that's the power that really comes from being a real sort of mission-driven company. Is you kind of get loosed a bit from the financial imperative, something or other. It doesn't change the fact that they still have very real questions they need to answer, and I can understand why so many people short their stock and all that sort of thing. But
if you're going to short them, though, it's a long-term short, I think. I mean, at this point, they've got years. They've got some runway, right?
No, they don't have that much money. I mean, they have a little over $1 billion in the bank.
Can't they raise money on those 300,000 pre-orders?
Right, and absolutely. That's a huge benefit of this. They've really demonstrated a real sort of demand and power in the market that I think will let them raise money at a better rate than they would have otherwise.
I think of
at some point they're going to have to make that money back, and it's still an open question. Like I said, I mean if their margins are going in the wrong direction. Actually, in 2015 they went down, not up, and they're not moving down the cost curve yet.
They've, in fact, shown an amazing capacity to lose money, and they're having technical issues with their Model X. All of the Model X's were just recalled. There are only a couple of thousand, but they all had to be recalled for safety issues. The company itself said we actually showed some hubris. We attempted too much, and we're having difficulty making the car.
I think they would not do the Model X if they could do it all over again.
That's why I want one. Right? Don't you want the car that was the biggest stretch? Unless it's a piece of crap, but I don't think it's going to be.
You can get great money for an Edsel right now. I mean, they go for major amounts of gas.
So I'll put it in the garage and all. So it's 10 years ago though that remember the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car? And it showed. I mean, remember the General Motors EV1, which came out in the 90s, and the documentary really documented, I thought, very effectively how the oil industry, the government, the battery industry, the car industry, all united to say this is a bad idea for business.
Exactly.
We're not going to let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge mistake because, I mean, given the fact that first Toyota with the Prius and now Tesla are basically eating American car companies' lunch for them.
Where would we be today?
Exactly. If they'd taken that opportunity 20-odd years ago and addressed this market, they could be earning big bank right now. And as it is, in the nature of competition, someone else is earning it.
But I think Elon did learn a lesson from that one of the things people would need is range. They would also need a way to fill up.
Yeah.
And Tesla very wisely addressed that early on with the superchargers.
The supercharger network is one of the most impressive things about Tesla. And, it's funny because Tesla actually says that they will share the supercharger network with other cars as long as they share in the cost.
As long as it's not a Chevy Bolt.
Well, no, but I'm very curious as to how Tesla measures that cost that the other car company has to contribute to. I imagine that the amount is exceptionally substantial, and it's interesting because in some respects you get a weird. It's not. I'm not saying Teslas will sell because of a network effect, but you get a little bit of a network effect in that the more Teslas that are on the roads, the more supercharger stations they can afford to build out and justify building out, and so you do get an effect where there being more Teslas makes your Tesla more valuable. Again, this is more of a weaker effect. I'm not saying that's why they would or wouldn't be successful, but it is interesting that there is a little bit of that effect there. And again, if Tesla's like, of course we'll be open with the supercharger network, you just have to pay us, X billion dollars because we, all the R&D and all the costs that went into it, and you have to pay your fair share. That's the real advantage they have by being electric only. The way they think about what to invest in is very different than a company like GM or even BMW or Mercedes, where all their revenue comes from a different part of the company that already has infrastructure in place. It's definitely an advantage. I do think, just to go back to a point, GM gets a little bit of a bad rap for that electric car in that movie. I mean, any rational manager would have done exactly what GM did, which is collect all the cars and smash them to bits, because they were on the hook for. The cars cost them a tremendous amount of money and continue to cost them a tremendous amount of money over time, and they did them for very rational reasons, I guess what I would say. I think they're painted a bit as a villain. When what they did, I think was, it was
a sensible business move,
right?
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. The question is, did their business interests coincide with our national and global interests?
Well, I think there's also an element that this was very like the Kodak case, where they could have ruled the digital camera market, and they decided to put it to one side because it was interfering with their main profit stream.
That's always the problem, isn't it? Though, is the innovator's dilemma.
Yeah, I mean, GM wasn't as bad as the film made them out to be, but they were pretty dunderheaded in this whole thing. I mean, people wanted electric cars. People, with their Evos, they protested and they fought to keep them, and they still had to hand them in, and that caused an enormous amount of bad feeling. I mean, electric cars make sense. I don't see what the argument is now in terms, the market has spoken. People want these things. Other car manufacturers are going to have to supply them as well, because not everyone's going to wait.
They also have to bring emissions down, right? I mean, there's a mandate. There's a governmental mandate. They have to get their overall emissions of all their vehicles down significantly. One easy, fast way to do that is with an electric vehicle.
Well, to that end, it's not clear that people want electric vehicles.
Right.
And that was kind of the point of my article. It's clear people want Teslas, which is amazing. No,
you're right.
I don't say that trivially.
That's brand.
That's what's so powerful, what they've built in their approach they've taken. And to that end, GM is farther ahead than a lot of other car companies. I didn't think I'd be on a text defending GM, but they're ahead of a lot of other car companies when it comes to electric cars. They have the Volt already on the road. The Bolt is coming out later this year. And the problem is no one's lining up to buy a Chevy Bolt. And the truth is every single electric car on the market has sold massively under expectations. Not just them, but also the Leaf, also any number of other ones. The truth is there's not evidence that they're popular. Two, again, to go back to the EV1, they sold it because actually California passed a law that you had to sell an electric car.
Right.
And so, it just gets to the limitations, if you will, about, when it comes to sort of government mandates and stuff. I mean, GM lost money on these cars because they were mandated to do so. And then when the mandate went away, they got rid of them so they wouldn't have to keep supporting them and keep losing money on them. I mean, you could just as feasibly make it an article about, when government regulation doesn't work, but that doesn't fit with the world, probably the world of filmmakers in this case.
As you point out, unlike other technical innovations, the Tesla isn't in any way better than existing cars on the road.
Well, it is, though.
It accelerates faster, which I guess is important.
Well, it is important. I mean, it's the fact that that it's awesome. I mean, to use the technical term.
I don't think it's awesome to the degree that it's awesomely better than any other $100,000 car, though.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you say like I mean, I'm not a $100,000 car expert or connoisseur, but that the quality of the interior and the components and stuff.
No, that actually turned me off. I feel like, boy, for the car that costs this much, this was with the Model S. It sure doesn't feel like it costs that much.
Right.
I
think though, I mean, again, I can't remember. You said you're going to include that extra. I'm not sure if it's in there, but to go back to the actual quote, the secret Tesla Motors master plan, which again, I think all the focus on them somehow paying it forward and all the financial.
No, he wrote this in 2006.
Right, but the parts that people are focusing on in this plan, none of it's actually reality. Like I mean, again, Tesla is paying for the Model 3 or will pay for it with capital raises, not from Model S profits, because there aren't any Model S profits if you calculate it on a traditional car company accounting basis. But he says in here, I am funding the company. He says, like, why do we have the Tesla Roadster? Why do we have this amazing car that wants to kick everyone's ass? This is because the overarching I'm quoting the piece. This is because the overarching purpose of Tesla Motors and the reason I'm funding the company is to help expedite the move from a mine and burn hydrocarbon economy towards a solar electric economy, which I believe to be the primary nexus. Blah, blah, blah. Critical to making that happen is an electric car without compromises, which is why the Tesla Roadster is designed to beat a generic gasoline sports car like a Porsche or a Ferrari in a head-to-head showdown. What I think he's getting to with that is you have to make electric cool, and the way you make electric cool is by having videos of a Tesla racing a 737 down the runway, which came out like last week, right? I mean, that's cool, it's desirable, and it makes people be willing to pay $100,000 for a car that feels like a $40,000 car or $50,000 car on the interior, or however much, wherever it slides into, and that it's that line that to me is really the most remarkable thing about the approach he's taken, and really insightful in his kind of understanding of the market. And people do want Teslas. Remains to be seen, as I said, if they want electric.
I just think the biggest success he has is in making a brand that is so obviously in demand.
Yeah. I mean, it almost Jobsian in that respect. I mean, Steve Jobs turned the iPhone, which was quite frankly, in hardware terms, a second generation, well behind the pack phone, and made it really, really sexy, and everyone wanted it. I do think the big worry I have with Tesla is that they've got a long-term problem, in that these battery packs don't last forever. Now, paying $35,000 for a Tesla 3 is all well and good, but if you've got to pay another $10,000 in 4 or 5 years' time, then is that going to turn people off? Is that going to sort of really damage the brand in that regard? I'd love to see some more stats on how long these batteries will survive.
Yeah. He claims they're recyclable. Even at the end of 100,000 miles, there's still some value in it.
Yeah, it is a good question, and we're just still early enough in the Model S. It's not clear how it's going to turn out. I do think the comparison is to Apple. I mean, certainly not from a financial perspective, and no one's saying that, and it drives me up the wall when people email back. Tesla's financials actually compared to Apple.
Yeah,
no, we're talking about brand.
Good.
That said, I mean, the iPhone was a technological leap forward. I would disagree with you, Ian, I guess, on that point. And I think there's a lot of Apple does think about this. And they talk about stuff like, the chamfered edges, and they buy these machines and all this sort of stuff, and all the stuff they go on about these sort of high end finishes and touches. A lot of that is about building the brand. And I think I will be as annoyed as anybody else by the argument that Apple is built on advertising or marketing. But I think the reason it's also not true to say that it's just purely popular because for technical reasons. That's not true. To have an iPhone is to mean something. It has status. You pull it out and you put it on the table to show something, particularly in other parts in certain parts of the world. And I think just as much as it's silly to say that's the only reason people buy iPhones, it's also silly to say that doesn't play a role. And absolutely, that's Tesla, I think, has pulled that off. I mean, people don't buy something without even put down $1,000 without even knowing what something looks like, without there being powerful brand at play. They don't line up at 6:45 in the morning like my friend did and be 123rd in line without having seen the car, without there being something really powerful at play from a brand and what it means to be a Tesla.
I do see Tesla drivers. If you see two Teslas going down the road, the two drivers will sort of check each other out and give a little nod and that sort of thing.
We're in the club. It's a club. Because we suffered to get our Teslas. That's what makes you in the club. Let us take a little break. We're going to have a great time today. We'd have lots more to talk about. Iain Thompson is here. It's Thompson and Thompson. Iain Thompson from the Register, register.co.uk. Ben Thompson from Stratechery. And we are talking about high tech. I want to talk about Tracker and why I will never again lose my keys. This is a really great success story that started in crowdfunding and has now really become, I think, one of the best products I've ever used. Tracker. This is a tracker. It's on my keys. It's a coin-sized device that pairs to your iOS or Android phone. You have a key loop, but you can also use adhesive and glue it to something. And what's cool is if you lose your phone, you press the button on the tracker, and the phone rings, even if it's on silent. And if you lose your keys, your phone goes, "Hey, your keys." It even has a map of where your keys were seen last. But here's the thing I'm most excited about. This is also a crowdsourced network because the tracker, for battery life reasons, has a 1-year battery, not rechargeable. You just put a new lithium cell battery in there. But it doesn't have GPS, but it does pair with your phone, which does have GPS. So what they've actually built is a tracker network. 1.5 million devices now. That's more than anybody else out there. And if you lose something and lose your tracker's attached to, it can show up on your map, on a map, even if it's far, far away. It's kind of remarkable. Scroll down a little bit and you'll see the map of trackers in the wild right now. And this map is growing and growing and growing. And this means no matter where you lost, and by the way, not just your phone, this is small enough you could put it on a dog or a cat collar. You can put it on your laptop. I keep it in my backpack. The tracker records its last known location on a map. And if another tracker user comes within 100 feet of your lost item, you're going to get a GPS update of where your item is. So it says, "Hey, I just saw your keys. They're in San Francisco." That is amazing. They just introduced this Tracker Atlas. It works with a Tracker Bravo, which is what I have here, or a third-party Bluetooth tracker to pinpoint your items on a customizable floor plan of your home. So it's one thing to know your keys are in the house. It's another thing to know they're under the sofa cushion. You'll save time and energy just by asking Tracker Atlas where your item is, and you will instantly get a location. This is truly amazing. These guys have really figured it out. And I kind of want to get more people to buy them because the more people who have them, the bigger the tracker network gets, the better it gets. And I want people to buy them all over the world. Notice Amazon Echo integration. Just ask your Echo. "Hey, where's my phone?" I love this. You got to get it. Here's the deal. Go to the Tracker, TheTrackr.com, and you're going to get 30% off your entire order right now if you use the promo code TWIT. So get 3 or 4. You'll find lots of places to use it. It is a great idea, and you will never lose your phone or your keys or your car or your home. I don't think people lose their homes unless they're on wheels.
Or unless they're very, very drunk. But
yes. Where do I live? I don't know. Look on your tracker. I'm going to put this back now because I do not want to lose, and I'm traveling, and I do not want to lose my backpack. So here's what I do. See, it's on my keys. So if I take the keys off, I have them. But then I attach it to my fob, which is chained to my backpack, and now I really am kind of doing double duty on my tracker. I will never lose my backpack either. So great. TheTrackr.com. Never lose anything again. Use the promo code TWIT and you'll save 30% off your brand new tracker.
I have to say I lost my phone last weekend.
See?
I could have seriously used that, but I went for the old-fashioned way of...
How did you find your phone?
The old-fashioned way. I worked out where I'd been the night before, where I would have most likely have left it. Went to the last
Did it
bar.
work?
Yeah, that somebody actually handed in at the bar, and it was sitting there behind there waiting for me. It really restored my faith in humanity.
You obviously didn't have the new iPhone, or you would have never seen it again.
No. I've Nexus 5, but
Yeah.
at least they couldn't get
I
it.
don't want this here. I'll leave it at the bar.
Oh, come on, it's a great phone. I've got to say, I do like the Nexus, but
No, I do. I'm actually become a major Android fan. I know it bothers Iain every time I say that, but I am an Android fan. I think I have an extra tracker. I was going to see if I could find it and give it to you. I think I have an extra one in here. I will keep looking. I lost my tracker. No, it's not activated, so you could actually, in theory, lose it. Here it is. Extra tracker just for you. You'll never lose your keys again. How about that?
okay.
All right. Burr Feinstein. Names that will live in infamy. It is now officially a bill. The Compliance with Court Orders Act of 2016.
Or the mindless stupidity and we want it now act of madness.
It is the sense of Congress that no person is above the law. Economic growth, prosperity, security, stability, and liberty require adherence to the rule of law. So all providers of communications, services, and products, including software, must, to uphold the rule of law, listen to a judicial order and, in a timely manner, respond to an authorized judicial order for information or data. It has to be intelligible information, in other words, not encrypted, or appropriate technical assistance to obtain such information or data. This is not prescriptive. It doesn't tell us how we should do it. It doesn't mention back doors. It's just your requirement. If you're Apple or Google or Microsoft or Dropbox or anybody selling stuff, you need to have a way to unencrypt it if law enforcement comes knocking on your door. Furthermore, it also applies to third parties, so-called licensed distributors, which means that Apple in its App Store and Google in its Now Store and Microsoft in its Windows Store would be required to verify that every single app sold in those stores also provides access. They are required under penalty of law. So if this bill were to become law, it would be the end of encryption in the United States. Not the end of encryption, but
At the end of secure encryption.
The end of security. Certainly. You call it in your article brain dead.
Well, actually, I was quoting Bruce Schneier on that. This is the guy who literally...
I trust him.
Yeah, he literally wrote the book on cryptography, and I had some of the stuff that in that article I had to leave out because he would have got sued over it. But
say it now, and then.
He just couldn't believe that they were actually putting this out there,
dumb,
and saying, right.
You point out it doesn't just affect phones; it would even affect things like compression, like zip.
Yep, compression. Even on a broad reading. Companies would have to provide deleted data and provide it in an internal way. I mean, it's just...
He told you this is the most brain-dead piece of legislation I've ever seen. The person who wrote this either has no idea how technology works or just doesn't care. I should point out Dianne Feinstein is the senator for Silicon Valley.
I know. How the hell did that happen?
She's a California senator. And Richard Burr is from North Carolina, where the Research Triangle is some of the most advanced technology in the world.
And these are the chairman and vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is supposed to oversee the NSA and other intelligence agencies. And they show such a
oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah, it boggles the mind. What on earth were they thinking? I mean, it basically says, do this. It's mathematically impossible, but do it anyway.
So what Schneier is saying, if you went to Microsoft and said, well, we want that file that was on OneDrive, and Microsoft says, well, no, that was deleted, that doesn't work. They have to say, no, here it is.
Yeah. Which means they've got to keep a backup of deletions. They've got to keep all content. It's not physically possible for companies to do this and stay in business. And it's going to make their products about as popular as a rattlesnake and a pinata. I mean, it would kill an awful lot of American business. It would possibly even make what the NSA does illegal, because I can't see them backdooring their encrypted tech.
Now, we should point out it's not a foregone conclusion that bill will become law. It's pretty clear that the president, if he's still president, will not will veto it. Ron Wyden, I love Ron Wyden. I'm loving him more and
He's
more.
a top bloke.
He's from Oregon, senator from Oregon. He says, I will filibuster this thing. This thing will never, ever become a bill as long as I'm here. Good for him. Good for you, Ron. It's in committee though, right? We were reading drafts of it. I think it's gone into committee.
They released a draft of it leaked out to the Hill about 10 days ago.
Right.
Then this version, which they've put in, is amended slightly so that the bill can only be a court order can only be raised with a serious felony or a drugs charge or a whole bunch of other charges that you could probably make stick to pretty much anyone. But it's so overarching. There's no hint of what the penalties would be. There's no hint of how this should be done. And then they have the nerve to say in the bill, of course, we're not prescribing how these things should be built, which is exactly what the entire bill is all about. It's frankly insulting.
The good news is there was a bill in California to prevent the sale of smartphones that had encryption.
That died in committee.
And that died.
Yeah. They couldn't get a seconder for it, which tells you quite how brain dead it was.
No one should take this not take this seriously, but there is some hope that this is not widely viewed as a good idea.
No, I mean it's going to be very unlikely that this bill, as it stands, goes through. What is worrying, though, is that this is a sign of the position the government is taking, and they will carry on hammering away as FBI will do with the next Apple iPhone case that needs to be decrypted. And it's if this is their starting point, then we're in serious trouble, because if something like this eventually goes through in 2 or 5 or 10 years' time after a big terrorist attack and everyone's very panicky, and they'd say, oh, well, let's give up our security just this once. And this is the kind of thing they're trying to do. And yeah, California, their bill couldn't even get a seconder. In Congress, however, what is it, something 60% of Congress are lawyers? There's only about 5 Congress people with any direct technology experience, and that's even if you're including Daryl's, car alarm systems. There are very, very few people who know anything about technology in Congress.
Yeah.
And with the first crypto wars, Congress ducked it. They passed a stupid law, and it took the courts to resolve it. Now, thankfully, the EFF and others are coming in on this, but, if something like this goes through, the results are going to be catastrophic. And getting security back from this is going to be a really tough job.
Any thoughts, Ben?
A few.
No.
So I think to go back to when this Apple FBI thing broke, I think I was on Twit actually that week, and my point then was exactly this: that the real danger with that case was not that particular phone, and what the FBI was asking Apple to do was certainly problematic, particularly from the government compelling Apple to weaken their own security was a problem. But that was, I'm pretty sure I said that at the time. I certainly wrote it at the time. That was a very small problem relative to a political movement forming to weaken encryption, and that's exactly what this is. Fortunately, I think I would hesitate to characterize Dianne Feinstein and Richard Burr as the government. It's 2 senators in the government,
right.
And
although ranking senators at the House Intelligence Committee.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true, but I mean, I don't think that. Just to go back to the 90s, I mean, this was an issue, and Congress did pass a law. They passed the CALEA Act, which basically, again, it's a very complex issue, and I'm going to very oversimplify it, but basically led to the capability of the NSA to force telecommunication carriers to let them listen in on everything.
But strictly forbid a requirement that manufacturers modify their phones, interestingly.
So, well, it did, but I mean, it didn't allow them to dictate the design of devices, and that's arguably a core reason why the All Writs Act does not apply. Because basically, the All Writs Act is if nothing else in the law applies, then apply this. But a core argument in Apple's legal briefing and the argument under which in this Brookwood case, Apple was found to not have to unlock the phone in that case, is that actually CLIA specifically considered this question and chose not to make them design it. That said, it did, in effect, and I think to Ian's point earlier, in effect, CLIA did force communications carriers like AT&T, Verizon. You talk about that secret room, right? That in the switch centers. That's an outcome of CLIA. But CLIA also, at the same time, also did say that encryption. It did legislate encryption and say that encryption was allowed and that the government could not allow encryption, basically. Which, if you go back at the time, that was an open question. There was you couldn't export encryption. You could only have it for the U.S., which the net effect was everyone got the crappy encryption, 40-bit encryption in browsers, which we're still dealing with problems today because of that. But I guess the good, there's good, bad news. The bad news is this is the negative outcome I certainly fear from the beginning when it comes to the Apple FBI case. Which wasn't about encryption, actually, was about weakening their security measures so they could brute force a phone, a 4-digit passcode. But the concern is that this would result in a political movement to weaken encryption, and that's where we are. And the fact it's just a fight that we as an industry are going to have to win. But again, I don't know how far we're going to get by demonizing the opposition or calling people names. I mean, this is an argument that it's on us. It's a complicated argument. It's one that's hard to explain, and it's on us to explain exactly why this is so problematic and make the case that it not only is the wrong thing to do for technological reasons and for privacy reasons, but it's the wrong thing to do for security reasons.
That's the big deal, right? It makes us less safe.
It does. And basically, to get into this, and there was a good video by CPG Gray this week, kind of getting a little bit into encryption. It didn't quite, there's like one more point he could have made that would have made it even better. But basically the idea is that, we in the physical world, we're okay with granting the police power with a warrant to break a physical lock, basically, and to do that. And I think that's an important point for advocates of encryption to make, that to acknowledge there is a legitimate need for this, and that's the case. I think the trick, the trouble is when the government breaks a lock and they're doing it in the physical world. That is one lock. Like, it's constrained by the. Even if you want to take like an example of a golden key, like if you want to like the TSA luggage, brouhaha. Like TSA now luggage has to have a TSA approved lock, which can be unlocked by a particular set of keys that only the TSA has. And then someone stupidly took a picture of it and put it on Twitter, and now you can 3D print the key that can unlock basically all the luggage in the world. It's a great example of the problem with golden keys, that they do leak, and when they do leak, then now everyone has access to every single luggage lock in the world was weakened immediately, all at the same time. The difference is you still have to get the key and go to every piece of luggage and unlock it one by one. Like, there's a physical constraint on what can be done with a golden key. The real danger with a digital golden key, and this idea that the only way that you could the only way you could fulfill this law, the only way is that Apple has, or Google or WhatsApp or any service, Amazon, and this applies to basically every single company that does anything over the internet, period. That every single company has to retain a key that can undo their encryption. But the difference is when and if that key leaks, and these things do leak. And again, you don't design for the best case. You design for the worst case. So you presume what happens if this key leaks. If this key leaks, not only is every single piece of software and every service and everything that touches immediately vulnerable, but it's vulnerable in a way that can be taken advantage of immediately and at scale. Yeah. Because that's how digital works. Like, some bad guy in some Eastern European company, or in Russia or China or in the US or wherever it may be, can immediately compromise and take advantage of that weakness in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
And that's very different than having to go to every single piece of luggage in the airport and lock them one by one. Like the degree of risk is massively, massively greater. And you put that in an equation where figure out who has the most to lose, who has the most to keep secure. If you did a census of every single country and every single citizen and every single company in the world, who has the most to lose? And if you put this in a ledger and you weigh it out and you balance it out, it comes out that the United States has the most to lose of any single country in the world. And instituting an environment where you're hoping, your security rests on hoping that stuff doesn't leak or doesn't get out, which the history of everything shows never persists and over the arc of time will get out. That's what happens. And that's why you design security for the worst case. You don't design it for the best case. So when and if that happens, who will be decimated? It will be us. It will be the U.S. And that's the argument that we need to win on, not calling them idiots, even though they are.
Yeah, I know. It's to be honest, it is tremendously satisfying to call these people wankers, but you're right. It doesn't advance the conversation in any way, shape, or form.
You said on Twitter you were going to, so I had a while to.
You baited him into it. You made him do it.
Yeah.
I would love, though, to ask Senator Feinstein, what's your thinking here? Now, remember, these two are ranking members of the Intelligence Committee. Maybe they know something. Maybe they probably do have a good reason to be very worried and think that, well, you really need to do something about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're being told by the intelligence agencies that they are going dark, and
Right.
But we seem to forget that before smartphones, we did have a pretty good record at catching criminals. It wasn't.
Yeah, what did we do
impossible.
before phones?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had encryption now for decent encryption for decades, and we're still catching criminals. There are still stupid people out there. It's that mindset that this will make law enforcement's life easier, therefore we should do it, and we should ignore the consequences. And as you say, Ben, the consequences of this are absolutely huge. If the government's OPM department can't keep its senior fingerprints and securities clearances safe, if Microsoft can lose its source code, if Google can suffer serious outages, there is no way to keep an escrow assistant key safe. And if you're going to introduce a deliberate flaw into the encryption, China, Russia, malware writers will do a Manhattan Project to find out what that is and to exploit it.
Yeah, just to be clear, you can design a golden key that cannot be discovered. I mean, the problem is the golden key can and will leak, or can and will be discovered. And I really think a core issue here is, I think it's hard for normal people to. I mean, what do tech companies sell? They sell, especially take them like Apple. They sell magic. They sell it's a magical device. It's amazing what we can do. Look at all these things we can do. And then I think to go back to brand, I mean, they're selling this kind of amazing behavior. And look, we made a robot that can win at Go, can beat the best player in the world, and these amazing innovations, all these sorts of things. And to turn around and say, sorry, can't do it, impossible. Well, true, it in many respects goes against the image that tech has been selling of itself for a long time. And frankly, oh, sorry, that's hard to use. Sorry, your computer crashed. This stuff's really difficult, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just hard for people to appreciate that this really it's a fundamental trade-off. Either, because the difference with encryption is with real encryption, with proper encryption, where every device and every person has their own individual key. That's in the case of an iPhone, right? It's based on the passcode is a piece of the key that goes into unlocking that phone. And can that passcode leak? Can there be an iPhone and the passcode or the password, even they got super secure? Let's say I have here's a Nexus. Say I have an 18-digit passcode on it or something, which is basically unbreakable if it's, with a computer, particularly given the speed of the processor on here. And can that leak? Yes, it can. And this phone could be compromised. But the difference is the only thing that's compromised is this one phone. And that's a big difference with a golden key, where when and if it leaks, every single phone in the world is now compromised. Or with WhatsApp, every single message in the world is now compromised. Or with Amazon, every single transaction and everything that involves that is compromised. And that's the other thing. It's not just about iPhones. It's everything on the internet depends on this. And to think that I don't know. To make a broader point, is that the obvious point that we haven't said yet, but it is a key thing, is that the U.S. can ban encryption. Doesn't mean encryption goes away, right? Encryption is fundamentally an idea that is manifested in ones and zeros, that is at a high level manifested in code. And the idea is out there. You can't put it back in a box. So given that, highly motivated, sophisticated criminals will always have access to encryption. So the only people that are hurt by this is, one, law-abiding citizens, and two, stupid criminals who are dumb. And to that end, the police in the U.S. are mostly concerned with stupid criminals that are dumb. And a lot of it has to do with drug charges, which is a whole nother debate, but it has to do with and it could do with murders. It could do with these terrible crimes. And this is a hard argument to make, because you sound very callous making it. At the end of the day, the sort of folks that are going to pull off a 9/11 sort of attack, which, one, as awful as it was in the 4 digits, and you put that up against other things, people who die in car crashes, for example. But even said, the people who have the sophistication to pull off that degree of an attack, by definition, have the sophistication to get an encryption algorithm that was made outside the U.S. The sort of people that the police will not be able to get to because an iPhone has encryption or because WhatsApp has encryption, those are the sort of people that the degree of crime they can commit. And again, it could be murder, it could be awful crimes, terrible crimes, but the physical constraint on their actions, just by virtue of no one person can be in a ton of places at once or pull off something of a huge magnitude, it goes into the pros and cons equation. And it sounds very callous to say that, but the trade-off, not all criminals are the same. The sophistication of the crime, I think, probably correlates very closely to the sophistication they have in getting encryption on their own, relative to someone who gets encryption on accident because Apple happened to include it on an iPhone, if that makes sense.
Microsoft's getting into the act. They have filed a federal lawsuit, they say, to stand up for what we believe are our customers' constitutional and fundamental rights that help protect privacy and promote free expression. They don't like the fact that so many government orders are secret and cannot be revealed. And they have decided that they are going to pursue this in court. And good on them. Good on Microsoft. They say over the last 18 months, they've received 2,576 legal demands that, as part of the demand, required that Microsoft not say anything about it. They couldn't tell customers about the warrants or the legal processes. And of those secret demands, 68%, 1,752, didn't have an end date. So it means that never, not a year from now, not 10 years from now, there's no statute of limitations. Never could Microsoft tell customers the government is obtaining their data. And they think they believe that violates the Fourth Amendment and the First Amendment. They should be able to talk. And the Fourth Amendment protects you against unreasonable search and seizure. They would like to change that, and they've gone to a court to sue over it. And I want to see more companies like Apple and Microsoft step up and defend their customers.
No, exactly. I mean, Reddit's warrant canary died a couple of weeks ago as well.
One more.
It's on one level, the people I speak to at Microsoft about this do believe passionately in the arguments that they're making that it's a First and Fourth Amendment issue. On the other hand, there's also a business motive here. Let's not deny it.
Well, it looks good.
It's
customers like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
that justifies the spend, I guess, the attorneys.
But yeah, I mean, they genuinely do believe in what they're doing. And to be honest, they've got a point, because there can be very few cases where the person should never, ever know they're being surveilled. And
I think it's kind of it seems to me a fundamental point of fairness and not just American law, but in common law in general, that you have the right to face your accusers.
Yep.
You have the right to know if you're being investigated, and to be secretly investigated. I understand that that's a useful tool for law enforcement if they're trying to crack a drug ring or find a terrorist cell. You don't want to let them know you're looking for them.
Yeah, but it's also very useful for police if they're trying to do something completely innocuous and stretch the law to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
that's the fear, is they're using it, overusing it. I mean, 2,756 in 18 months that's a lot of warrants.
I mean, when the Patriot Act got rammed through in 2 days, then it was just like, oh, we're only going to use this in very certain circumstances to protect against terrorism. Yeah. And then before you know it, it's being used left, right, and centre. And the same thing's happened in the UK with the Ripper Act. I mean, once these laws are in station, then the police will use them because it saves them work, and that's perfectly understandable.
National security has become the tool of scoundrels, I think.
No, there's a specific, to Ian's point, I actually have the article in front of me. There was a provision in the Patriot Act called sneak and peek, which basically is the ability to conduct a search while delaying notice to the suspect of the search. It's this point exactly. Although this is about an actual physical search, I believe, not about this point specifically, but it's the same principle. And in the when this went through, this was actually a very controversial provision, and they stated that this was only going to be used for terrorism. To investigate these crimes without tipping off the terrorists. Robert Mueller said, is an invaluable tool in the war on terror in our efforts to combat serious criminal conduct. Well, since the Patriot Act has been passed, there have been over 11,000 sneak and peek requests. And of those 11,000, a total of 51 have been used for terrorism.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which is an infinitesimal percent of. The vast majority have been used for run-of-the-mill drug cases.
Yeah.
And again, I'm more than happy to have a debate about the war on drugs and the destructive impact it's had and the questionable motivations for why it even got started.
Did you read what Ehrlichman said about it?
I did.
I thought that was fascinating. So John Ehrlichman, who was one of the Watergate co-conspirators and did some jail time. It was just recently. Somebody was interviewing him. And he said, yeah, well, you want to know about the war on drugs? Really, it was because we couldn't really just go after black people. Mm-hmm. We couldn't really just go after hippies.
Yeah.
So we inaugurated a war on drugs that would, in fact, just by accident, just kind of reel them all in.
Exactly.
This was under Nixon.
Out of the mouths of babes and scumbags. I mean,
we're still fighting that war on drugs, and there are so many people in jail for so long for one joint. It's criminal, and boy, Ehrlichman has passed on, and I don't know if this is true or not. But
I mean, given the fact that we've had this 40-year war on drugs, and drugs are cheaper, more powerful, and more available than they've ever been, by all logical reasons, it's a failure and should be scrapped. But for some reason, it's being kept in, and then you've got to wonder why. Who wins out of this?
I mean, it's my fault for setting us down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't mind though. I think it's fascinating, really.
But here's the thing, though. Even the reason why it's maybe not productive, not to take over your show, but the point being is that I think we can all at least agree that the war on drugs does not rise to the level of 9/11, let's say. I mean, and the problem is that, and this is the key to this debate, is that the reality of the matter is that the law enforcement in general are cloaking themselves in terrorism and people's fear of things like 9/11
and child pornography.
The debate I would have is that the real problem is we wildly overestimate the cost of terrorism. Again, not to trivialize people who died in 9/11, but you compare it to one, other countries, and two, the number of people who die in any number of other things, and on a cost-benefit basis, our reaction is completely and utterly out of whack, and that's what really needs to be fixed. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But the fact of the matter is, even as bad as it is, I think the all evidence is that law enforcement is being duplicitous in leveraging that fear to, in fact, get a tool that's going to be used for drug dealers. And I think that's the case that I think if people understood that, this would be a different conversation, because the fact matter is this Feinstein-Burr bill, all these bills are going to do nothing to disrupt Al-Qaeda. They do nothing to disrupt ISIS, because this technology is out there. It exists. The only people that it's going to help, the only law enforcement it's going to help, and we have evidence of this, is small-scale stuff. And do we want to trade the ability to more easily arrest a drug dealer for exposing the secrets and value of all U.S. corporations and property to whoever may come along? That's the real issue at case here.
Apple, by the way, this is germane to tech, because Apple is now fighting yet another case where the feds want them to unlock a phone. In this case, it's a drug case in New York, a federal drug case.
With a guy who's already in prison as well.
Yeah.
This is the case I referred to earlier, where Apple actually did win the first round. What's interesting about this particular case is Apple. This is, in some respects, this is an easier case for the government to win, because Apple doesn't actually have to do it. Apple can just unlock it. They don't have to actually create a less secure operating system and all this sort of stuff. This is actually because it's running iOS. It's running iOS 7. It's not full disk encrypted. iOS 7 has some encryption, but it's not full disk encrypted. And Apple has unlocked these cases in the past. They've just never. In this case, the judge actually invited Apple.
Right.
In all cases, Apple just acquiesced without agreeing or disagreeing with whether it was justified. In this case, the judge actually asked Apple, "Do you actually think this is legally permissible?" And Apple came back and said, "Actually, no, we don't." And
the judge agreed initially.
Right. Well, it's interesting because the guy, as Iain said, the guy went to prison. And so they kind of fell off the radar. But then once the San Bernardino thing happened, Apple actually went back to this judge and said, why don't you rule on that case? We're curious what you think.
Yeah.
And that ruling came out before the San Bernardino case was wrapped, and the judge ruled in favor of Apple. Right. I think this guy is kind of a well-known agitator in this area, so Apple probably knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. He said, you can't keep using the All Writs Act for all this, for anything you want it to. It does not mean what I think you think it means.
It's interesting, though, because the government, I think the reason the government is appealing this, and this is an appeal, is because the issues for this case, again, it's all about precedent without question, but the issues in this case are narrower in that the government is not requesting that Apple be compelled to do additional work.
Right.
They're just...
Well, and that's Apple's point, is that the government could do this without us. They don't need us. Why are they demanding this?
Well, Apple's now, frankly, that's Apple kind of obfuscating.
Because what they really want is a broader ruling. Anyway, well, enough of this. We talked enough about this.
You can get in the weeds for ages on this.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know. The House has passed a bill to sabotage net neutrality. At least that's the interpretation by the EFF. It's H.R. 2666. Now, it's ostensibly about regulation, the No Rate Regulation of Broadband Internet Access Act. And by the way, a strong 241 to 173 vote. Ostensibly, this just bars the FCC from regulating the rates. However, the bill is worded in such a way, according to the EFF, it could be used to keep the FCC from enforcing other consumer protections, including the net neutrality regulations that they propose. President Obama says he will veto the bill. It has to get through the Senate. Just thought I'd pass that along. And here's another tip. Thanks to Mike Elgin for this. Do not carry a satellite phone in India.
Oh, yeah, this was terrible.
Cress Daniel Morton, he's 65 years old. He lives in Illinois, and he's a physician. He carried a satellite phone into India with him because he needed to stay in touch in some of the rural areas he was visiting with his patients and his hospitals. He was arrested. Turns out it's illegal to have a satellite phone in India. He didn't know, apparently, but of course, ignorance is no defense, even in a case like this. He has been bailed out, but he has to stay in India until the investigation is conducted and a report regarding the calls made from the phone.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand people
bizarre.
getting hassle for their phones, but
You have to figure that law is made by Indian telecoms that want to own the wireless business.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. But the fact is, you need satellite phones in parts of the world if you need to get phone access anywhere in the world. A lot of sailors use them. A lot of medics, as this guy will. It's to actually say, right, okay, it's almost as stupid as, say, I don't know, an American lawmaker looking to ban encryption. Oh, hang on, we've done that. We've done that.
Hold on. Really, no more government stuff. Let's talk about Facebook in just a little bit. Google, Netflix, Twitter, and if you're using QuickTime for Windows, a little warning all coming up. Oh, and the Oasis. I don't know if you've seen Amazon's new highly expensive Kindle. I don't even know who's asking for it, but somebody is, I guess. Our show today brought to you by Harry's, the best shave ever for a fraction of what you're paying now from Harry's.com. I have to say, I didn't used to think shaving was anything but a chore. But once you start using Harry's, you start to kind of like it. The idea that you can afford to get a new blade every week, nice sharp blade. Harry's comes to you directly from their factory in Germany. I'm a big fan of the Winston set. That's the metal handles. But this is a Truman. Look how nice that is. With a new grippy. They have kind of this new grippy handle. They really feel good. And, of course, you can get a Harry's kit for very little money. I think it's $15 for the Truman kit. That includes the foaming shave gel, the handle, 3 blades, and the travel cover. That's a great deal. And then you get blades and foaming shave gel, or the cream, which is what I use, shipped to your door automatically. Why pay $30 or more for blades, an 8-pack of blades, when you can get them for half the price at Harry's.com? They have customized shaving plans based on how often you shave. Supplies will be delivered to your door on your terms. They're so confident that you're going to love Harry's that right now they're offering a special deal for a limited time. Sign up for a shave plan, and for an extra $3, you can get one of their beautifully crafted razor handles, the 5-blade cartridge, their foaming shave gel, and a travel cover free. Just $3 for shipping. This is a nice deal. A great way to get started. There's lots of stuff on the Harry's site. If you've got graduation coming up, or it'd be a great Mother's Day gift for the bearded lady. Go to harrys.com/twit right now. Get your free trial started today. Harry's, better way to shave. harrys.com/twit. One more. This really irked me. And Motherboard, by the way, has been doing really a great job on tech reporting. This is a Vice column. But this one really bugged me. The FBI says, talk about losing the golden keys, says a mysterious hacking group has had access to government files for years.
Yep.
Since 2011. And there's nothing they can do about it? The group known as APT6 have compromised and stolen, this is a quote, stolen sensitive information from various government and commercial networks since 2011. This is an FBI alert. It comes months after the government revealed the group of hackers, widely believed to be working for the Chinese government, got into the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, stole data about millions of government workers. This, underscores the fact that you can't give the FBI this kind of stuff because they have no control over what's going on.
It does make me wonder what our law enforcement money is being spent on. It's like we're supposed to have, the NSA, the finest hacking squad in the world. We're supposed to have sort of rock-hard government protection of our data, and this happens. And it's not the first case. There have been hackers going around the White House computer systems for months now. They can't get out of there. And you've got to wonder why, it's probably, in this case, almost certainly a nation-state actor.
They think it's a Chinese government.
Yeah, which would explain why the new Chinese jet looks very, very like an F-22.
Michael Adams, who's quoted by Motherboard, he's an information security expert who was served 20 years in the U.S. Special Operations Command, said, looks like they were in for years before they were caught. God knows where they are. Anybody who's been in that network all this long, they could be anywhere and everywhere. He said this alert is an admission that the government still is not in control of what goes on inside its most sensitive networks. It's just flabbergasting. How many times can this keep happening before we finally realize we are screwed? Oh, that's great. That really inspires confidence.
Oh, yeah. Yes, lovely stuff, isn't it? It's just what you want to hear from the people who are supposed to be guarding our tax returns this weekend, you know?
Yeah, by the way, 700,000 tax returns lost by the IRS last year. Lost to mysterious hackers. We don't know. Where do they come from? Who are they? What are they doing? We don't know.
Insanity.
Well, the broader point is, I mean, frankly, we're probably well infiltrated into Chinese.
Oh, yeah, we're doing the
well.
opposite, I'm sure, yeah.
The point is that you have to, like, just the broader point is you have to design for failure. Like, you have to presume that security will fail. You have to presume that people will break into anywhere and everywhere. And you start with that, and then you think through what makes sense. And that's where, and that at a very core level is why this golden key thing is the issue, is because you have to presume it gets out. And then if it gets out, how do you mitigate the damages? Well, if you're in a situation where millions, hundreds of millions of services or devices are compromised immediately, and because it's digital, said compromise can be exploited immediately and at scale. That's the fundamental problem with the golden keys, is the fact that it compromises everything at once, and it compromises all immediately and can be taken advantage of immediately. Yeah. And that's the key thing about this, that I think so many people who like, well, the government, we let the police have a warrant. We let people break locks. Like, once you get digital, it changes everything about this. And again, yeah, you have to design with the assumption that everything is compromised. And that's what's brilliant about encryption, is that it really can make it. Encryption defeats the power of scale, because it can be encrypted on a one-to-one. Every device can have its own individual encryption key.
I should mention, by the way, that somebody said, "Oh, big deal! You lost 700,000 returns." I don't mean lost. I mean hackers got them.
Yeah.
Then
use those to get money out to steal money from everyone else.
The IRS originally said, "Oh, it's about 125,000." Now we know it was 700,000. It's really not just the returns; it's the entire account, including social security numbers, birthdays.
The digital checking system they put in place to reassure people that then got hacked as well. You couldn't make this stuff up. It just it boggles the mind.
Uber, on the other hand, FBI is probably saying, thinking to himself, why can't you be more like Uber?
Yeah, bending over and
Why can't you be more like Uber? Uber says, we never got any national security letters. We have never received any orders under the Foreign Service Intelligence Surveillance Act. No, we just decided to hand over information on 12 million riders and drivers to various regulators.
And that was 12 million in the last 6 months, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we just feel like we ought to be more helpful.
Yeah, it's
415 requests from law enforcement agencies, a majority from state governments, and you know what? We got a great record on that. We were able to hand over data in 85% of those cases. Now tie that into the story that's going around, and I don't know if I'm completely worried about this. That Uber's new Android app asks for access to your history of your browser and your texts and a whole bunch of other stuff. Browsing history, bookmarks, running apps. Now, I mentioned this, but
I'm gonna jump in here because we can't have our cake and eat it too. Like you can't. At the end of the day, we'll start with the law enforcement thing. I mean, the police do have a legitimate interest if they have a warrant in getting information, for one. For two, like, there's trade-offs you make just to live in public. I mean, you're asking to use a car service.
Right.
And
I agree with you.
Include your credit card. And presumably it's a high thing for fraud. And so the large number of these requests are about fraud investigations for the use of stolen credit cards. I mean, I guess I worry about this privacy absolutism, for lack of a better term. And I'm
kind of in agreement with you.
I'm pro privacy, but at the end of the day, it's dangerous. I'm concerned about the conflation of Uber responding to legitimate law enforcement requests with this battle about golden keys, for example. And I'm not saying you were doing that, but it happened to come in a show kind of next to each other.
Yeah. No,
And
I brought it up.
No, and I'm just saying but there's people who are doing great work online about privacy and all that sort of stuff. The problem is it's definitely an area that you can be a bit of an ideologue about. And the fact of the matter is, like everything in the world, there are trade-offs, and there are difficult trade-offs. And the issue is not preaching to the choir and making us all feel good about ourselves because who can come up with the most witty insult for government officials.
Although that is fun.
It is fun. It is fun. But the reality is this is a political fight where it's going to come down to winning the hearts and minds of the American people,
Right.
not to get all grandiose about it. And we're not going to get there by being absolutists and fundamentalists about this issue. I mean, we're going to get into the whole problems with our politics in general, but the idea that there is no compromise and my team has to be right no matter what, and the refusal to see and acknowledge the shades of gray in almost every issue. Take fracking.
You have
Random
to.
example. Take fracking. Fracking, we want an absolute thing on fracking. Meanwhile, there's also news this week about Saudi Arabia and quote unquote holding hostage the U.S. about this 9/11 bill. Those are actually intimately related because we are Saudi Arabia has less influence over the U.S. because fracking has released so many energy reserves. Again, that doesn't mean one issue or the other. You can still be against one or for one, but you have to think through. There's multiple levels going on, and there are very few actual right answers to any one question. Not to bring politics into it, though, I'm not saying my position on either side, just that these are super duper complex, and we do ourselves a disfavor by coming across as ideologues because it's not about preaching to the choir. This is a real political fight we have to win. And I'm sorry I'm going on and on about this. It's just I believe so deeply that this golden key stuff in this bill is such a bad idea. And because of that, I'm almost more worried about demonizing the whole thing because we have to actually win this fight.
Really, you could use this to prove your point, which is to say that there are plenty, that we are not going dark. There are plenty of legitimate ways that law enforcement can fight crime, can fight terrorism. And these, this is an example. By the way, the Uber story that Uber was asking for all these permissions in its Android app, and I'm always a little nervous about these permissions things because the way permissions are clumped together, a lot of times you can ask for permission to do something you need to do, and it includes a whole bunch of other stuff. The response by an Uber engineer a couple of hours ago was these permissions were mistakenly introduced by an engineer on the team who thought a third-party library needed them, when in fact it does not. We definitely do not need or want those permissions, and we have released a new version to the Play Store that does not request them, so please upgrade to version 3.98.3, and you won't be asked for permission. Of course, nobody trusts Uber, so the immediate response was, well, really? Another oopsie from Uber? But I think in this case, it probably wasn't.
I've got to say, with the request for information, what was most disturbing for me was that the bulk of these requests weren't warrants, they were subpoenas. And you don't necessarily need to go before a judge to get a subpoena.
Lower standard, lower. And then there's pen registers, which don't even require a subpoena. You just go to a portal on the phone company's website and pay $1.50, and you can say, where was Iain Thompson the other night? That's the real point. With the Internet of Things,
my wife finds out about that, I'm dead.
The good news is finally Congress has recognized that just because email is 180 days old, it is not abandoned.
Yeah.
And that you can't just, well, I think you still can, but soon you will not be able to. But
well, the bill's out of committee now, and it's got to go up for a vote.
It's got to pass, though.
Yeah,
right?
it's got huge support in the House. It's got 340 co-supporters. This thing is
because they have email too. They understand that one.
But also, I mean, the original email legislation that we're operating under was written in 1986, where people stored their email on their personal computers. It wasn't given out to a third-party cloud provider. Now it's the case that, I mean, when was the last time you really delete a Gmail, Gmail emails?
I have email 10 years old and more on my Gmail.
Exactly, and that's all open. That's open to law enforcement.
You don't need a warrant to read it because it's considered abandoned after 6 months. And that is, I think that will be the end of that. But for now, anyway, delete your email.
Well, from the Uber perspective, Uber has enough fights with government.
Yeah,
and
they don't want to
regulations
fight anymore.
on their hands.
Yeah.
No, just to be totally. Yeah, I mean,
that's the last place they're going to fight. I agree.
Exactly, and so. Yeah, it's the last place. Pick
your battles. Pick your battles is the phrase you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that fortunately that's something you can take in your own hand. You can not ride an Uber, and so it's good that this is being exposed. This is why journalism is important. This is why the news is important, and then you as a consumer can make the decision: is the convenience of an Uber worth knowing this is the case? And so I'm glad we know. I'm not going to demonize Uber for it, though.
Let's take a break. I still want to talk about Facebook, and I also, there's lots more to talk about. We got a great panel on our 11th anniversary episode. Ben Thompson from Stratechery.com. Great analyst, must-read analyst every week on his website. And from the register.co.uk, the ever-acerbic Iain Thompson. I don't know if acerbic's the right word.
Snarky, maybe.
Snarky. There's a word. I like it. Great to have you both. Good friends and really always fun to talk. We had a great week, and we have a great week ahead. We're going to NAB tomorrow. I'll tell you about that. But first, let's see what it was like last week on Twit.
Previously on Twit.
We have an email from Tim who writes, you continue to refer to the grin emoji as the grimace emoji.
I like that. No wonder there's an emoji divide going on right now.
Security Now.
WhatsApp flipped the switch for encryption for 1 billion users.
These guys absolutely nailed it.
The new screensavers.
Alexei Pajitnov, the creator of Tetris, joins us. You were originally writing on this says a PDP-11 clone.
Oh my goodness.
The Electronica 60.
It had no graphics at all. All I had was 24 lines, 80 symbols each, and that was all my pixels.
Tech News Today.
All of us have goals. 25-year-old Alejandro A.J. Fragoso set for himself the noble goal of breaking the Guinness World Record for binge watching. He broke it with his 94-hour stretch of watching television. He said binge watching can be, quote, quite taxing.
He looked like he's having fun.
Technology for your eyes and
praying
ear
for a
holes.
shotgun to the head, you know.
Oh, Lord. A great week ahead. Megan Maroney from TNT. What's coming up?
Thank you, Leo. This week is the National Association of Broadcasters trade show. And as you know, we will all be live from Las Vegas. So check us out there. In other news, Google Music Podcast reportedly begins rolling out next week, at least according to NPR. Soon you will be able to get your Twit fix right from Google Play. It's also a big week for earnings. Google, Microsoft, IBM, Netflix, even Yahoo will be reporting their latest figures. And the Internet of Things Summit happens next week in San Francisco. So we hope to hear some news on connecting all the things, maybe even some welcome privacy news on what it's like to connect all the things more safely. Back to you, Leo.
Yahoo Monday will be, they'll announce, right? Who's picking up Yahoo? Who do you think?
I don't know. The most interesting one I heard was possibly the UK's
Mail.
Daily Mail.
The Mail.
Yeah, or the Fail as it's known in certain
Isn't
circumstances.
it like a tabloid, the Mail?
Yeah, well, it's a tabloid with pretensions.
Even worse.
It's the Daily Mail is read by, as the Yes Minister famously put it, the wives of the people who run the country.
Oh, well.
But they've built up this enormous, salacious website that is the #1 news website in the world. It rips off everyone else's copy in occasionally. It is if you try reading it, it gets very depressing very quickly because it's sort of slightly lurid and very pious and that sort of thing.
That's how I feel about analyzing Yahoo's financial results. So.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh well, I mean, Yahoo
for sale. One slightly used internet company. Verizon, Yahoo might also go to Verizon. Of course, they just bought AOL.
Yeah,
it would make sense. That's where I think the real value at this point of Yahoo is as much the information they have about their users as the content, right?
Well, a big problem with Yahoo is they don't really know anything about their users. Yahoo brings scale. They bring a lot of users, mostly on the desktop, but still a lot of users, and there's still value in that. And frankly, AOL has much better technology than Yahoo does. It's a good investment they've made in that over the last 3 to 4 years. And so I think bringing that better technology in understanding, tracking users, serving ads, all that sort of stuff to bear on Yahoo's user base could make this a something that makes sense for AOL as a part of Verizon.
AT&T, Comcast also considered, although maybe not as many bidders as you think. Aaron Griffith, good friend of the network, writes in Fortune that many of the so-called 40 bidders for Yahoo have never even signed the non-disclosure agreement to view the sale book, which means they're probably not that interested.
No, it always helps to get a bit of publicity in there.
Right.
I mean,
SoftBank, for instance, never signed the NDA. And actually, according to the New York Times on Friday, isn't interested in bidding anyway. The Daily Mail has never signed the NDA.
Yeah.
Microsoft never signed the NDA. So there are probably a lot of people doing due diligence and maybe dipping their toe in the water. You think Verizon? I think Verizon.
I think Verizon makes sense to a certain degree. I mean, it all depends what's included in the package as well, because the Alibaba stake is basically Yahoo's complete value at the moment. Everything else is just negative.
It's definitely not included. I mean, the whole point here is to separate the Alibaba,
so how
which
much
has actual value.
So how much they're going to pay for it? I mean, I've got $20 in my wallet. I mean, to buy a loss-making enterprise like that, you've got to have some value in there. And you're right, the value is with the users.
Well, I mean, it's not loss making though. I mean, Yahoo's profitable, and they throw off a fair bit of cash, albeit a declining amount of cash. So there is the problem is, all the trends are in the wrong direction, but there is cash flow there. So there's theoretically a deal with like a leveraged buyout sort of deal too. Again, the problem though is just the fundamentals of the company and where they exist in the current environment are all wrong.
And they don't seem to be encouraging the buyers either. Aaron quotes one senior private equity executive whose firm expects to make an offer, saying the auction process has been an effing joke. Most financial bidders were required to listen to a lengthy pre-recorded management presentation before they'd even answer questions over the phone. This sounds like water torture.
You see,
very few suitors were granted face-to-face meetings with management. Verizon and Comcast, among the lucky few, even they struggled to extract information from Marissa Mayer and CFO Ken Goldman. They were rebuffed after asking about current revenue projections for Tumblr. I think one of the reasons this article's even been written is that these people are coming out of these meetings and calling Aaron and saying, this is horrible.
See, I don't think Maya particularly wants to sell anyway. I mean, she still wants to make it work.
One popular theory, writes Aaron, among bidders is it's an open rebellion by Meyer against Starboard Value and board members who want to sell.
Yeah.
Starboard is the activist investor who
That's a nice way of saying vulture capitalist. But yes,
and so maybe she's being forced into this by the board and she doesn't want to do it, so she's making it really unpleasant.
No, I think she wants to make it work. This was her big move from Google to show that she could run a company after being sort of denied proper management, what she saw as proper management roles within Google. And 3 years down the line, well, a bit more time maybe, but it's got an aging user base. It doesn't seem to know where it's going. I think
what a great soap opera this is. I'll tell you, it's just
well, and frankly, Starboard or whoever the managers are, I mean, you can call them vultures, but as a shareholder, I'd be certainly very pleased that they're there. I mean, the reality is that
they're saying cut bait, right?
Well, there's zero indication that Yahoo, under its current direction, has value in the long run, frankly. And honestly, I don't think it's necessarily Meyer's fault. I think that she was the wrong hire, and I think she was the wrong hire because I think Yahoo hasn't known what itself is for a long time. People think of Yahoo as being a tech company. The reality is that Yahoo started out by being a human curated list of the internet,
right?
Which was so non-technical that they got their rear end kicked by Google.
Yeah,
because Google was a technical solution to indexing the internet. Yahoo was a human-based solution.
And I remember going to Yahoo's offices when they were just starting out. And actually, Jerry showed me the servers. It was small enough that they had the servers on premises in a closet. He said, there's Yahoo. I said, oh, there's Yahoo. And then mostly it was a lot of people, right? Yeah. Maintaining an index that there's no way that could scale.
You could have saved
they're a media company. They've been a media company,
Right.
and to hire Meyer was to misunderstand what Yahoo has always been, in my estimation. And the
Yeah,
fact
I
that
feel like they have
she
some
was in an
good,
impossible
decent
situation.
products. Yahoo Mail is a decent product.
I know people.
Flickr is a decent product. A lot of people use those content sites, OMG and TV.com. They drive a huge amount of traffic.
I think the huge winner in all this was Microsoft, considering Microsoft
They almost
very
got 'em
nearly
for
paid
31
40 yeah, but one stage the bidding was up to $40 a share.
Oh, man.
And Ballmer gave an interview a couple of years later, and he was like, that was the biggest
Dodged a bullet.
I ever dodged.
That said, Microsoft would be up on their investment if they had bought it then.
Would they?
Because that would have included all the Alibaba stake and stuff. So it would have been terrible strategically because they would have had this anchor tied around their ankles. But I mean, I can criticize Ballmer left and right as much as this person, but that deal is people forget about that part of the deal.
Yeah, it's actually $36 now.
No, they would have backed into that profit, to be
Right,
clear.
by luck.
I think they
Purely
wanted
luck.
it for strategic. It was a terrible idea.
It is the weird.
That said, it wasn't quite the financial disaster that
It is
people
weird the way these things work, though, because we just we had an article last week about this. You know, Apple actually made a colossal amount of money out of the Newton. You know,
What?
Yeah, Apple made at least $700 million out
On
of
the Newton?
on the Newton. And the reasoning
Well,
is
you'd
this.
never know that, would it?
No,
Jay?
in terms of
was a harm,
building
right?
and designing and selling the product, they lost $100 million. But as part of that, they needed processors to make the thing work.
ARM.
So they bought a big stake in ARM, which they then sold for $800 million. So law of
They made
unintended
700.
consequences here, you know.
So the Newton was not profitable, but the fact
Good
that they had
business
to
if you can get it.
invest in ARM and make ARM happen and made a lot
Well,
of money.
you could say they made hundreds of billions of dollars because that helped ARM, which eventually they used in the iPhone and in the
Yeah,
foundation.
that's
of
true.
the
That's true.
A708. So.
Basically, what we're saying is it's a random walk, and if you you do well, you just lucked out.
The rich get richer.
The rich get richer. Mm-hmm. Our show today brought to you by Audible.com. We know you like to listen. You're listening right now, but how about audiobooks? Have you ever tried audiobooks? I am such a fan. This one's an easy one for me. I've been an Audible customer since 2000, 16 years, long before Twit even existed, because I had a long commute. I had to drive to San Francisco every day. I'd spend 2 to 4 hours in the car every day. And frankly, the only thing that saved my sanity was having great literature in the car. I listened to all 21 volumes of the Aubrey Maturin series about a Napoleonic War era ship's captain and his best friend, the ship's doctor, Aubrey and Maturin. And what a great from Patrick. Not Patrick. Patrick O'Brien. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful books. By the way, they're all on Audible. Just great stuff. That saved my life. I was sailing a ship the whole time. I was driving back and forth. Great science fiction, too. Look at Ender's Game. That's the 20th anniversary edition. It's a dramatization that really comes to life. Man, there's so many great volumes there. And here's a way to get 2 of them for free. You're going to go to audible.com/twit2. The audible.com/twit and the number 2. That'll get you a chance to sign up for the Platinum Plan. It's 2 books a month plus the Daily Digest of the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. You can cancel anytime in the first 30 days, pay nothing, but those books are yours. You get to keep them. You know, you see that Hamilton book? They call it Hamiltome. That's the story behind the musical. That's sold out. You can't buy that in bookstores, but you can get it free right now at audible.com. It's a nice thing about digital. Never runs out. You can never sell out digital copies.
Property here, no connections. Alexander Hamilton, 1780.
I got to actually listen to this because I'm such a fan.
I was going to say, you've seen the musical.
Chapter 1. On the origins of revolution, both national and musical, with reference to opening number.
There's so many great books. You got to go to audible.com and take a look, browse around. You're going to pick 2. I know it's hard. In fact, the biggest problem with Audible is just, I want to listen to that, but I want to listen to that. Audible has a wish list where I load it up. I load it up with all the books I want to hear. The new Lisa Scottolini book just came out. Here's one. I just saw the David Foster Wallace movie. Really loved that. With it's James Franco and Seth Rogen interviewing James Franco. This is a story of one of the greatest novelists. Sad story too. Infinite Jest is a very long Audible book, but you can get it for free. There's two ways you can listen. You can listen. There's a 3-part version. Or you can get all 55 hours in one.
Cross-country trips.
Yeah. I feel like it's good to get long books because you're getting your money's worth, right?
Yeah.
If you buy books by the pound, this is for you. Audible.com/twit2. Your first 2 books are free. Many hours of pleasure await you with some of the best books in the world. Audible.com/twit2. We thank them so much for their support and for keeping Leo from going bazooties on his drive home. All right, F8 was this week. We all watched Mark Zuckerberg on stage on, was that Tuesday?
Yep.
With his killer drone, oddly named Aquila.
Yeah. Oh no, Killer's the really big. Well, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a big
drone.
That's the one with the wingspan of a 737.
Yeah.
Looks strangely like a B-1 bomber.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's harmless. It's just going to spread the internet
via lasers.
Mark's kind of like an Elon Musk. I think he's got great vision, but he also, I think, lives in a bubble, an interesting bubble. He's not like you or me.
I got to say, I mean, I was actually at the conference, and it got almost distasteful at one point where he was talking about, there's 1.6 billion people out there who don't have access to the internet because they've got 2G connections. You're like, well, hang on, they probably also don't have access to clean water, electricity, enough food. Diarrhea kills 2,000 children a day around the world, and I don't think those people's first priority is checking their Facebook feed. It's like, sort of frowny face, lost another one today.
Well, and it's not the internet he's offering because the Facebook's what is it called, the Basics?
Free Basics.
Free Basics is really Facebook. Plus a Wikipedia, some women's health stuff.
It's about 100. It's about 100 sites. They are actually opening it up now.
Are they?
To allow more sites on there, but it's primarily a tool for getting people on Facebook, which it's getting the world wired up is a laudable goal. It's a laudable goal in its way, but I prefer the Bill Gates version of keeping people alive rather than allowing them access to tweets and pokes. It's
lots of free stuff. This is a top 10 list from Wired magazine, aptly titled 10 Things Facebook's Given Away to Take Over the World. Cassandra is a NoSQL database, a flat file database that Facebook created. That's for big scale. Google's done similar things, giving away some of its tools. Hadoop. I didn't know this. Hadoop came out of Yahoo. Facebook apparently took it mainstream. And, of course, now Microsoft is taking on the Hadoop banner. Hip-hop virtual machine. What?
Yeah, they were kind of pushing it to make the 10, I think, on that one. But
it translates PHP into machine language. It's a PHP compiler, I guess, but with a very strange name. Oh, I get it. It's a retronym. It's an HHVM, which they call the hip-hop virtual machine. I don't know what the HH is. Box and Wikipedia now both do it. Data centers, they open source.
They did a huge amount on that.
That's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is.
They call it the Open Compute Project. So how to design a energy-efficient data center.
It's also completely mucked up Dell and HP's business plans, but in a good way.
Well, yeah, because they wanted to sell servers, and everybody's buying commodity servers, building their own using Facebook's design.
Yeah.
Google does the same thing too, though.
Yeah, I mean, they build their own hardware, but I mean, one thing Facebook has been very good on is open sourcing a lot of these designs. Right. We saw this they're not open sourcing Aquila, but the other two net extension technologies they're talking about, the redesigning cell towers and redesigning aerial systems, they're open sourcing that as well. All their telco gear is getting open sourced.
Facebook's also building its own switches.
The Google point is important, though, because the reason what makes the Open Compute project so brilliant strategically is Google had and especially internally, counted it as a significant advantage. Their expertise in building data centers and buying all the the component parts and really re-engineering what it meant to be a data center. And Facebook, 5-6 years ago when they started the Open Compute project, it was a classic strategy move and just brilliantly executed. The leader is fully integrated, has a superior solution. So what we're going to do is we're going to commoditize it. We're going to make it completely open. We're going to get people induce competition in all these various areas and give it away. And the net result is actually, as of I believe it was earlier this year, Google actually joined the Open Compute project.
Oh, that's great.
And Google has previously open sourced some things, but it's been stuff that's been well developed and is out there, and they get less of advantage from it. When they joined the Open Compute project, they actually contributed. I can't remember what specific thing is. I don't have it in front of me, but they contribute something that they're actually actively working on that previously they would have viewed as a differentiator for themselves. And the reality is that Facebook has completely commoditized that advantage for Google via the Open Compute project. So it's achieved Facebook's strategic goal. And in the meantime, it's a big problem for Cisco. It's a big problem for a lot of these data center providers.
And look at this. They're building their own networking gear. I mean, this has to terrify Cisco and Juniper and others. And not only that, they've open sourced the design. So it's not like I'm going to build one of these switches, but somebody in Asia might.
Oh, yes.
And sell it very cheaply, right? Yeah. That's, I mean, in a way, I kind of applaud. This is pretty impressive that they're giving this away.
I mean, I think Ben's spot on this. It served their interests, but it also served the interests of the wider community. So win-win.
Well, that's business, right? If business is done right, of course they have a responsibility to be a profitable business to their stakeholders. But if it's done right, it also benefits the world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not as though Google can complain about this, because that's exactly what they did with webmail. They took on an established market and they gave it away for free, and they vastly expanded the amount of storage everyone had.
What's amazing is that we have always known how disruptive technology is to old line businesses. But what's so interesting is it's moving so fast now, it's disruptive to other technology businesses. Yeah. We're living a world of disruption.
Well, it's what Google did with Android. I mean, the reality is, it's in your interest to understand as a company where your differentiation comes from. You want that to be exclusive, and you want to commoditize everything else in your value chain, because that makes your piece more valuable, makes your piece more expensive, depending on whether that price is attention, whether that price is time, whether that price is money. So no, it was a brilliantly executed strategy, and but the Google added a new rack specification that includes 48-volt power distribution, in case you were wondering. But it's the same thing with the open compute thing. I mean, yes, there's lots you can be or not open compute, free basics. You can certainly be critical of it for lots of different reasons, and I think the India aspect of it was very interesting, particularly the ideas of digital colonialism and how that tapped into India's history with the British Raj and all that sort of thing, which I think Facebook to their was not nearly as aware of as they should have been, and were kind of oblivious to this. But it doesn't ipso facto make what they do being wrong. I mean, Open Compute Project is it's a good thing, and the fact that it benefited Facebook along the way is worth understanding. It goes both ways. From one, let's not overpraise Facebook, just as we shouldn't have overpraised Google for Android. And nothing was more galling than in the middle of the iPhone Android stuff, people going on and on about how Google is some intrinsically good company because they're open. No, they're open because it serves their strategic interests. But let's not go to the opposite side either and say this is a bad thing because it's serving their interests. Well, they're big companies. That's what they do. They and let's understand that, but let's not make moral judgments in either direction, either good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on an awful lot of that. It's I think what worries me about free basics, and this was something that they actually said last week, was they said that of the people that use it, 50% will buy an independent data plan within 30 days. And they're saying basically this proves our point that, once you get people excited in the internet, then they will get online.
The value of the real internet.
Yeah, but it did also make me think that, but it also kind of demonstrates the point that free basics sucks. If you've only got access to a couple of hundred websites.
For a couple of weeks I tried this, now I have to get the real thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like we talked about before with the trade-off stuff. Everything's a trade-off. I mean, you could, and the free basics, Facebook's position is, well, it's free basics or nothing. You can see it's kind of unfair to say Facebook ought to give the whole internet and every site, whether or not that site has optimized itself for free basics, which is a key part of being a part of free basics.
Yeah.
That you're not taking. I mean, the average web page is like multiple megabytes in size, which it's not financially viable to give that away for free. Just not. So, but on the flip side, well, who's making the decisions? Who's doing this sort of thing? So you can argue both sides, but I don't think it's particularly valid. Well, I mean, there's no having your cake and eat it too. It's like everything. Like there are trade-offs, and is it better to have nothing or is it better to have something?
Well, yeah, but free basics as it stands only works at the moment if they've got an internet connection that they can access in the first place. I think what's interesting about Facebook's sort of quest is that it has the Aquila drones, it has the ability to go to places where there is no internet access. Now that, I think, is going to be, very handy. It will be handy for the people who are getting the internet access. I just question whether it's...
I have to defer to Om Malik, who's been very upfront about his opposition, as has, by the way, the Indian government, which has banned free basics. He says it's a form of kind of information colonialism.
Yeah, we're kind of guilty on that front. So, let's face it, the Brits don't have the best of records.
He says you can't really understand why it's so anathema to Indians. But, we had to face this kind of colonialism in person, and we've seen this before. Come on, it's free, try it. You'll like it. And
this one is, yes.
It didn't end well the first time, so.
No, and he wasn't the only person. Facebook isn't the only company to run up against this. Mark Andreessen made a number of staggeringly really poorly worded tweets about this. And then had to make a public apology to it.
Staggeringly poor is understating it.
Well, it was just like, you saw the first one, it's like, stop digging. Come on, Mark, stop digging. You're supposed to be the smart one on this. And then another one came out and it's like, oh, for God's sake.
I think he said something like, I found his apology, but let me see. He's probably deleted the original offensive remark.
It would not surprise me, because I can't remember exactly what it was.
How has that opposition to imperialism worked out for you? Something like that.
It was just like, hell, the Brits have got a really bad reputation in India and justified in many ways. But, it doesn't, understandably, a lot of people in India are very, very touchy about this sort of thing. Because it hasn't worked out great in the past. Yeah. And, we gave them the railways, but also mass famines. It's kind of swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. Let's see here. So I guess what we should really talk about is the bots, because that was one of Facebook's big announcements. Now, this is not the first time Facebook has announced, hey, we're going to do Poke, or we're going to do Facebook Home, or a variety of products that serve Facebook's interests, but did not pique the interest of consumers. This is, we've all been looking at messaging as a platform. It's pretty clearly a powerful platform in countries like Japan and China. Have you used WeChat? You're in Taiwan, so I don't know if WeChat is as big in Taiwan as
Line is the big one here.
But both of these are chat platforms that allow you to do things like buy tickets and a whole lot more, right?
Not really. Frankly,
is that overstated here in the West?
Well, it is overstated. I actually don't think Facebook's announcement, and I think Facebook should have framed it better, because what's interesting here is not necessarily bots. The reason I talk about bots is kind of the developer angle on this.
Yeah. They're the apps that sit on the platform, which is messaging.
Well, also maybe. The way WeChat works in China, for example, and WeChat is by far the most developed here,
right?
Is actually, so you if you're a business, whatever, you can get what's called as an official account. And an official account, the vast majority of them, you can build a sort of bot type framework on it, but few do, because it doesn't make sense. The vast majority are actually web views. They're
I heard that. So it's just really a portal into a website.
in all intents and purposes, that lives in the WeChat UI. And what makes this powerful is the context that's delivered by WeChat. WeChat knows who you are. WeChat has payment attached. WeChat knows your location. Like there's all this context that WeChat provides. So what it allows is you can have these very lightweight interactions with businesses, whether it be buying something online, whether it be ordering dumplings down the street, whether it be interacting with government services, like all the government various agencies, like the water utility is on WeChat. Like you can do all this stuff via WeChat. And the reason, again, it's powerful is like if you go on a mobile web page, you have to enter your credit card information, say who you are. Like it's just, there's so much friction there. But by being in WeChat, there's no friction. It's very easily discoverable. Like QR codes are a big thing. You can just scan it. It's super easy. Everyone knows what it's for, where it's used. And there's no friction. It reduces all the friction in these interactions. The reason why I think this is so misunderstood in the U.S. is I've been writing about messaging for a very long time. I think my third or fourth ever postage check was about messaging, but it's always been about the WeChat or the Line, or in this case, Messenger. Because the fact of the matter is, the reason this area is interesting is because WeChat, for example, has built what is effectively an OS on top of the OS. Like these messaging apps are the browser on top of Windows. And the reason that's interesting is the browser was what broke Windows in the long run, right? Because you no longer were locked in. And
how is it different than a browser, though? It sounds like it's just another kind of browser.
Well, it is in a way because it delivers all this context in a very in a frictionless way. Like the difference between on WeChat. So I can open up WeChat, not now because WeChat in China is different than outside China. But say I'm hungry, I can open up WeChat. I can go near me. I can see there's a dumpling place around the corner. I can go to that place. I can go into the site, which is again just HTML and CSS. I can make my order. I can click buy because WeChat knows where I am. It knows who I am, and it has my payment information attached. It is all the context.
See, I love this idea. Can we do?
It's amazing.
Is this where Facebook is headed?
That's exactly where they're headed with Messenger. And Messenger, they want to get this context and deliver it. The reality, though, is that one of the ways you could deliver it is via bots. But the fact of the matter is, at least at the beginning, and if you go to the WeChat example, most of it isn't bots. And I personally am convinced that all the bot hype is wishful thinking for the most part. That it's going to be.
They're kind of clunky. I subscribe to a few bots. Here's CNN, and it's
the value's going to all accrue to Facebook. Just like the value all accrues to WeChat.
Right? Why would CNN even? I mean, I guess you get more eyeballs, right? And so the images seem to have disappeared. Maybe that's another problem with the fact that after a while this expires.
The media companies are on there because they're desperate.
Yeah, they're just trying to get audience. So this has got a little carousel, and then you can query it. You can read the story, which will bring you to a web page. You can get a summary, which I think is going to come from chat. And then there's something called Ask CNN, which I don't want to get in a dialogue with CNN, but maybe I don't know what exactly.
Well, I mean, they demoed this at the actual keynote, and this was something that came. It's just like CNN will send you a list of
but you can ask for more,
what the headlines are going to be, and then you can ask for more information.
Yeah,
but I'm deeply skeptical about this move from Facebook, simply because they touched on it slightly, but this has to have a human working behind it as well. It's not totally an AI system.
Well, okay. So I typed Rio Olympics.
That's not Facebook's problem, though. I mean, if Facebook, in the long run, the value will come from providing the platform, and so like it's on the individual businesses to have that back end. Unfortunately, most of the demos are terrible demos of what's valuable. I actually thought the best demo was the 1-800-Flowers demo. Like you could envision a world in the long run
flowers.
Yeah, well, like for example, you could see a flyer or something, and it has a QR code around Mother's Day, or maybe there's an advertisement or something. And again, people mock QR codes in the U.S. just because it's never been implemented properly. But QR codes are a huge thing in China. They're a huge thing everywhere, and the reason they're a huge thing is because everyone knows where to use them. They're used in WeChat, right? Like there's no. That's always the problem with QR codes. What app do I use?
What do you do with it? Yeah. What do I just take a picture? Then what?
Again. Well, this is the way it would work for Facebook theoretically in the long run, is you see an ad for Mother's Day. You open up Messenger, boom, you scan it. Now you're in an application, you do order flowers. and they're like, oh, or order roses for my mom. They're like, oh, what's the address? You get this kind of, you just put in the information. It already has your payment information. It already has various aspects about you. Maybe because it's Facebook, it already knows your mom and where she lives. I mean, who knows? But you have all this context where it's a trivial transaction. You have to go download an app. You don't have to go to a website. You don't have to enter your credit card information. Like, there's lots of friction that can be removed. And chat is better than calling on the phone. Like Zuckerberg said it. Like, who wants to sit on hold? You can have an asynchronous conversation.
I'm not convinced of that. In fact, it just seems like one more way companies can put off having any interaction with me with some automaton. I would rather talk to a person, if you don't mind.
You're stuck on the bots thing. Again, bots is one possible implementation of this platform. And frankly, I think Facebook screwed up by over-indexing on the bot thing, because what makes Messenger interesting, what makes WeChat interesting, has nothing to do with bots. Bots are an implementation detail. And frankly, I think the vast majority of Silicon Valley is missing the boat on this, because Silicon Valley gets so wrapped up in scale and a technical solution, when what's interesting about the real work that needs to be done here is actually going to like businesses and getting them online and getting them like their stuff integrated. And no one wants to do that because it doesn't scale, and it's not a VC type of business. And so everyone's trying to put a VC business framework around this opportunity, when the fact of the matter is the opportunity is pretty exclusive to Facebook. And people, I think, just really, really hope this is the next app thing or whatever. But
here's Poncho the weather cat. They showed this one off. So I said hello, and it went zzz per, what time is it? Oh, hi, I'm Poncho, a weather cat. And then I have buttons. I don't actually have to type, which I frankly like. Yeah. It says weather cat or I'm okay. And then I said weather cat, and it says a cat that tells you the weather. Oh, anyway, why don't you tell me where you are? I need to know so I can give you the forecast. If you're on a phone, you can send me your location too. So I typed in the city. Oh, Petaluma. Right now it's clear there. Is this the location you want? And I will click the button, yep. And then I guess from now on, may I send you a weekday morning weather update at 8 a.m.? Or just tell me when you'd like to get the morning forecast. Yeah, send it to me at 8 a.m. That sounds good. So great. So I've had an interaction, which actually I guess I'm going to get bothered every morning.
You had an interaction with Microsoft Clippy. I mean, that's what's so.
It's very much like Clippy, isn't it?
The bots are only going to be interested right now.
Wait a minute. Are you sensitive to pollen? Do you have fancy hair? Should I send you frizz or pollen alerts?
This is the problem, you see. I think companies go into this in a half-assed fashion. They're going to risk annoying more customers than they actually really sort of get along with.
I actually have had Poncho on. I turned it on my SMS messenger, and I turned it off after a day because it was really annoying.
What Iain said is super duper important. Like, I'll let you say it again, Iain. We missed it.
I was just saying that basically I think a lot of companies are going to rush into this, and they're going to put out badly thought out software. And
that's what always happens.
It's going to run. It's going to annoy more
apps?
people.
Remember all those apps?
Oh yeah, but I mean, you mentioned Clippy as well. This was, it's even now. Sorry, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
No, I'm ranty about this because I think Facebook screwed it up, and the reason they screwed it up is I think there is a real opportunity here, but by everyone, not just you, Leo, but everyone is thinking about what they said about Messenger as being about bots, and the opportunity is not about bots. That's maybe the developer opportunity, but that's not the real promise of what they can do with Messenger here. And the concern is people like you don't get ask Twitter. You don't get multiple chances to make a first impression, and these implementations are terrible. And people talk about bots and AI. This is the discredited form of AI. The idea that we can anticipate every possible action and give an answer to it. I'm annoyed.
I mean, it also ties into Facebook's goal of becoming an AI company, and they're still a bit.
But these aren't AI.
No, exactly. But this is how they were billing it at the conference. Was okay. Our AI systems aren't there yet, but stick with us, baby, because we can make this work. And I don't think they can at the moment. I mean, they're still reading from the fact that they were, we're going to build an AI which can defeat a human player at Go, and then Google did it just a few months later.
It was literally Mark Zuckerberg posted about it, and literally within 12 hours, Google post had come up about it. It was.
I know, it was hilarious. You just you couldn't make this stuff up.
So what should Facebook do? I mean, I agree with you. It's not about the bots, or it's not about these kinds of bots. So Facebook needs to go out and start talking to businesses and getting them signed up. Is that?
Well, that's the long run. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's getting any sort of multi-sided network off the ground is devilishly difficult. So Facebook has to sell this benefit to businesses, and there's lots of reasons the Chinese market is different. Actually, one of the things that's really interesting about the Chinese market is there's a very famous, probably the most famous flame out of a Western company in China is Groupon, which went in there with a bunch of Western managers and just got obliterated. And they got obliterated in part by all these imitation sites that sprang up, the largest of which, Meituan, is still around. But a ton of money went into it. And a lot of this money went into going out and having sales forces, going into all these businesses, wiring them up with computerized cash registers and tracking stuff on stuff so they could take advantage of these coupon offers and all this. And a tremendous waste of money. This kind of gets to some of the stuff we talked about earlier. Just a huge waste of money.
You know what
happened though is when these new services, these new generation, it's called Auto in China, there's kind of these, whether it's food delivery, whether it be the WeChat stuff, the payments, what happened was all these small and medium-sized businesses had all this technology already in place that was helpfully put there by all the VCs funding Groupon and all their clones.
Right.
And so in some respects, they were more primed to leap forward in this respect.
Isn't that fascinating?
It's just kind of one of those interesting unintended consequences sort of stories.
Snapchat horror film. I think Snapchat. No, I think it's an interesting medium.
I'm just remembering the film of Super Mario Brothers, and I suspect we're going to see
Alison Raskin has done a Snapchat horror film. I mean, this it's on Snapchat, right? It's not off Snapchat. I don't know. This is a screen grab, I guess, of it from Space Oddity Films.
Yeah, sometimes the Hollywood and tech just don't go together, and you're just...
Did I wake you? I don't know. I think this is interesting. It's quite a medium we got here, this Snapchat thing.
Yeah. Well, they're also sort of pivoting around, trying to find...
So was Vine, I might point out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Snapchat are suffering a bit in that they're needing to pivot away from what they've been known for, so they've got to expand out some new areas.
You don't think this is kind of just kind of native? Somebody figured it out. This is something Snapchat kind of pushed somebody to do. It's not like Allison just said, "Hey, this would be kind of cool."
It's possible it went either way, but I know the company is desperately looking for a way to maintain its valuation.
Right.
I don't know. I think Snapchat's it's pretty powerful. Their numbers are off the charts.
They're amazing. Yeah. Like kids, it's hard to keep kids engaged, and I don't think it's really fully in the company's hands. Frankly, their future. They just kind of have to hope that there are people like Alison Raskin who continue to create interesting content, and people find new ways to use it.
The way they've evolved is really interesting. I mean, because where they started was Facebook had there was a hole in the market. I mean, Facebook has always been kind of from day one. We're about this week has been about your public persona and public representation of yourself, and that left space in the market for kind of your private persona. And Snapchat filled that, and over time, Snapchat has expanded out of that. They added there's the stories feature, which are public to anyone who follows you, and is kind of like TV. And now with the latest update, you can actually sit and it'll just go through stories, and you can see how maybe an ad might fit in there. They have the Discover, which is professionally produced content, which has massive engagement numbers. You talk to any of the publishers that are in there, and it's huge. And again, then now with professionally produced content, there's maybe a better fit for professionally produced advertisements. The challenge for Snapchat is the engagement numbers are fantastic. It's an amazing place to be, to own this sort of private communication. There's a couple challenges. One, just generally, are they going to be able to spread internationally? Because this space is filled by apps like Line or Kakao or WhatsApp, frankly, in other countries. And two, kind of take this full circle to the Tesla, Apple stuff. There's a brand promise of Snapchat, which is this sort of it is private. And to get effective advertising, where they're going to have to do more tracking and more targeting, which, by the way, they changed some of their policies with the latest update, their privacy policy in terms of conditions and stuff, to make it clear this is going to be happening now. That's going to be the real challenge for them. I think it's a product that is here to stay. But to pull off the monetization is going to be tricky. But that said, they've really executed, I think, really quite brilliant. Now, the big concern, I've made this joke on multiple mediums and platforms, so I'm sorry to reuse it, but I like it.
No, reuse it.
Is that
nobody knows what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about turnover. Turnover can refer to revenue, but in the case of Snapchat, it refers to their executive ranks. And there's a question about Evan Spiegel. Does he have it in him to build a business,
right? Not
just build a really compelling product. And
that's a hard thing to do. We're going to take a break, wrap this up. We've got a few more things to talk about. Our show today brought to you by Gazelle. If you're in the market for buying a new gadget or selling your old gadget, this is the place to go. Gazelle has a variety of iPhones for sale, including the 6S, the 6S Plus, iPads, Samsung Galaxy phones, each device fully inspected, backed by a 30-day return policy, sold without carrier contract. You're going to get a great price, and you can even get financing now. Gazelle has added financing by Affirm. You give them your basic information during the checkout process, and you'll get approved instantly with easy monthly payments of 3, 6, or 12 months through bank transfer, check, or credit card. Just check the box that says financing with Affirm. It's never been easier to buy a new device. They even offer 12-month warranties through Assurant for cell phones and iPads. Covers water damage, cracked screens, hardware defects, and more. Gazelle, and of course, it's still the best place to go to sell your used stuff and get top dollar. You're guaranteed for 30 days. You lock in that price from them, which means that you have the flexibility to decide anytime in that 30 days whether you're going to take their offer or not. They can't change the offer. Although I have to tell you, they're really good about upping the offer. Twice now I've used Gazelle that they've actually given me more money than they offered because they said, oh, no, this is better than you said. Gazelle, to buy, to sell, give new life to used electronics. Trade them in for cash or buy certified pre-owned. There's nothing better. Keep that around. Keep it in the back of your mind the next time you're ready for a new one, or the kids are, or you drop a phone. Gazelle, Gazelle.com. I don't know anything about this. Somebody called the radio show and said, did you know Dubai is putting high-speed Li-Fi into their street lights? Li-Fi is really weird. It is LED lights that blink and transfer data. It's not Wi-Fi. Yeah, well, it's kind of like how fiber optic works. It has potentially very high speed in the labs. It's invented by a Scottish
as many good things are.
Professor, yes, in Edinburgh, the University of Edinburgh. He gets 224 gigabytes a second over this network. Now, of course, it's not going to work with many smartphones. You have to have a smartphone that can see the light and transmit the light.
Yeah.
But apparently, many new smartphones are starting to include this Li-Fi capability, and Dubai has plans to get this all over in their street lights by the end of the year. It's the first kind of wide-scale test of Li-Fi.
And you can see, I mean, Dubai's got the kind of money to put into this kind of project.
Yeah.
It's
good to get a test because
it's going to be interesting to see how it works in the real world. I mean, I've looked at various parts of this, and it's a really cute idea. If it works, it's as specified. It's going to be very, very good indeed. But I'd like to see a real world.
It reminds me of WiMAX. Remember how excited we got about WiMAX?
Yeah, turned out to be
how
WiMAX worked out for them.
Yeah, really, such a flop. And yet, if this works, I mean, it's really, really intriguing. I think the key is going to be that you got to get this stuff into phones. Here's Professor Harold Haas, who's at a TED Talk explaining his
Which instantly makes you suspicious. I mean, TED is
I know.
It's just like,
Apparently, the latest. This is according to a journal from the UAE. The latest crop of smartphones are Wi-Fi enabled and can connect through the use of their camera sensors. Older models and non-Wi-Fi enabled products will have to use a dongle.
I've got to say,
It's invisible to the naked eye. It's in the ultraviolet or infrared range. I don't know anything about it. I just thought I'd ask you guys.
I don't know. It's Quora. I don't know, but top Google result is as of now, April 2016, there are no phones with Wi-Fi support.
Yeah.
So
this is will be a good idea someday, perhaps, maybe not.
in the meantime, I'd like a flying car, please.
So many. It's so easy to evaluate products in a vacuum, but the reality is, nothing exists in a vacuum, and
I use WiMAX all the time as an example of that. Right? It seemed like a good idea.
That's why we're running. Well, that's why we're running x86 processors, even though based on a CISC instruction set that is not that efficient. But for backwards compatibility, and yes, I know technically it's RISC on the inside now, blah 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 blah. But the fact of the matter is that like compatibility and all those sorts of things are product features just as much as what's on the spec sheet are. And I would strongly suspect that would be the case with this, that we'll get some evolution of Wi-Fi and the wireless that we already have, and we'll be happy with it.
Are people running out to buy the new Kindle Oasis? Amazon's newly announced Kindle is $290. And it's apparently got great battery life. I don't know why you would buy this.
Battery life. I'm sorry, 20 months battery life?
Yeah.
Who needs 20 months battery life?
I know.
Are you going to be stuck on a desert island with no hope of rescue and just like, oh, thank goodness I've got put my ebook reader?
Well, it's got an ergonomic hand grip. Now how much would you pay?
Well, in that case, just take my money now. No,
what I've also found is I think this is a category that's dying, isn't it? Everybody's got readers on their phones and tablets. Why are people buying standalone readers?
I mean, that's exactly why they should go high end, because the people who are buying this are people who highly value having a dedicated reader, and they value it for lots of reasons. It could be battery life, it could be usability, or it could be they like the e-ink display. But in any niche market, you're better off going high end than you are, because the low end is going to be taken by the
right.
Well, yeah. I mean, you and that's what people value. The people who are still buying e-ink readers really wanted an e-ink reader, and they are much more likely to pay for the best possible e-ink reader. Anyone who is worried about price is just going to use their iPhone anyway or their tablet.
No,
anyway.
I admit I bought a Kindle Voyage because I wanted the 300 DPI.
You see, my wife's got a very, very basic e-reader which gives a great battery life, and it doesn't cost very much, so she can read it in the bath.
You can get a Kindle for $80, right? And if she drops it, what's she going to do?
If she drops it,
she doesn't care.
It's just like, well, it's a bit of a pain in the backside, but what can you do?
This is only 4.6 ounces.
But it's a lot of money for an ebook reader.
It's the lightest and thinnest Kindle ever.
For a single-use device, then
that does seem like a lot. I think you nailed it. I think that well done once again, Ben. That's why we have you on. It's if you're going to have a small niche market, go for the high end. Build a Tesla, not a Toyota. And finally,
also the months and months is only with the extra cover. Like the
right, it covers a battery as well. Exactly. It's like a Mophie case. It covers the battery as well. So that's why you get extra. But who wouldn't buy the cover?
I don't know. Maybe you're going on a long trek. Maybe you're traveling the world. Maybe you're a sailor at sea. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like they probably have electricity, but like there probably is some market, and if there's not, like then they'll stop selling it, and they'll be okay. But hey, I mean, the people who are buying these devices are by definition not average customers anyway. So,
a little public service warning: Apple has decided to not update QuickTime for Windows, even though there are existing security flaws in it,
and not tell anybody about it.
And
it's just shameful.
And by the way, if you use Adobe Premiere or other video editors, you have to have it. Yeah. You can't just take it off. I actually know a couple people who say, well, I'll just put it on when I need it, and I'll take it off when I don't.
The only reason we knew about this, I got a call from Trend Micro's PR people saying, we're just sending you over something now, can you take a look at it? And they were just like, they'd led off with, we found 2 critical flaws in QuickTime. Oh, and by the way, you should probably take QuickTime off because Apple's not supporting it anymore. And that led to like sort of, hang on a second. So checked with Microsoft, checked with Apple, didn't get a response from either of them, although Microsoft did at least return the phone call. But Apple have been absolutely quiet on this. And it took US CERT actually to put out a warning about this.
The Computer Emergency Response Team.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they put out, after the Trend Micro report came out, they put out a report saying QuickTime's got to go. But Apple has said nothing. They've left all their customers dangling in the dark after 21 years of building this software, which isn't the best software in the world anyway. And then just to say, well, yeah, okay, we're not going to support it, but I know there's some critical flaws, but, you know, we just don't make us say it because it's really embarrassing. And it just, you know, screw them.
Frankly, it puts all Apple's rhetoric around the iPhone and sort of stuff. Like, oh, you really do care about security? Tell me more.
Yeah.
Because no, I completely agree with Ian. It's okay. I get that this happens. Sometimes software needs to be deprecated, but then it's on you to put out. Apple has a big megaphone, as we know. They were willing to use it for the iPhone to say how much they care about security. Well, if you really care about security, then use your big megaphone to tell people that you're exposing them to a real security risk. And this is a genuine risk where people, again, we're dealing with digital here. People can use these bot networks. Here's your bots to or infected computers to scan computers everywhere, see who has this involved, take advantage of the vulnerability, and take their information. And it's Apple's fault. And frankly, it's super hypocritical, and it really bothers me. I mean, and Apple has lots of security issues. I mean, I was ranting on Twitter this week about the modal dialogue you get on your Mac asking for your iCloud password. And it pops up all the time. And any third-party app could pop up an identical modal password. It's bad security. And that's for your iCloud account. The fact of the matter is Apple, as much as I support this because of the principle of the matter, Apple has an awful lot of hypocrisy going on when it comes to security because they have a lot of bad practices, and this is just the latest example of it.
Yeah.
I think it's time we allowed texting in movie theaters.
Get out. just leave immediately. I'm sorry.
Variety was interviewing Adam Aron, the new head of AMC, which is a big theater chain in the United States. And, you know, they're just having a normal interview, and he says, well, we really got to get millennials back in the theater. And then he says, yeah, we should allow texting and cell phone use. When you tell a 22-year-old to turn off the phone, don't ruin the movie. They hear, please cut off your left arm above the elbow. You can't tell a 22-year-old to turn off their cell phone. That's not how they live their life. So we're going to allow it. You have to figure out a way to do it that doesn't disturb today's audiences. Maybe we'll have a specific auditorium just for texting. Or
I'm sorry.
There's an update to the story.
I know. The update is when that came out,
Here.
AMC tweeted, no, we were wrong.
Yeah. Groveling apology as well.
I'm sorry. Oh, man.
I'm sorry. I honestly think if using a mobile phone, or I went to the Star Wars film recently, and some absolute git was using a tablet in the seat in front of me. And you're like, you're trying to concentrate on the film, and then it's just like, oh, I'm just writing something. And it's just
writing a little
review. You're here to watch a film. Show some respect for everyone else that's there that just wants to watch the film.
Call myself
and not watch you
I'm gonna.
It just drives me up the wall. It's like people who buy sweets with crinkly wrappers in cinemas. They should be shot. I'm a bit of a hardliner on this. You know?
Wow. How do you feel about popcorn eating?
Wow. Popcorn, you can kind of get away with it. Although, what is that stuff they pour on it over here? That like fake buttery stuff?
No, it's real butter.
Oh, it
trademark real butter. It's made.
Why? I don't. One, they were talking about having a specific movies in theaters would be advertised, and if you were objecting to this, you could choose not to go. Two, they could make the last 2 rows allowed.
That's not a bad idea.
I don't understand why people are getting like. I mean, like
it's got to be it's a huge problem. I guess it's a huge problem
with attracting young people. Yeah,
right.
I mean, like,
well, but for instance, the last time I went to a movie, they had 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 different ads saying "Put away your phone before the movie." I mean, it's obviously out of control. People are doing it, and fights are breaking out. I don't know.
Well, it also helps that not having phones or hardware in in plain sight is an anti-piracy thing as well.
I think it has something to do with that.
But I'm sorry, we really should be teaching some people to put away the phone at some point.
Well, that's kind of what these ads said. It says you paid money. It was a Coke ad. You paid money to have a Coke, have some popcorn, and watch this on the big screen. What are you looking at your little screen for? Knock it off.
Yeah. And it can be incredibly annoying for everybody else. So
I don't care.
I don't know. We should just be teaching people that sometimes you need to put the phone down.
Maybe.
Oh, whatever. Eat your vegetables. What we need is
right on.
Touché.
What we need, what is needed in the U.S. and I've heard that now some theaters do have this, but is assigned seating. This whole like you line up and rush in to find the best seat is ridiculous and barbaric. Like you should be able to buy your seat ahead of time, specify where it is, like you do on an airplane, which is the way it works in I think most countries in the world. And on there that if you had that in place, you could enforce this sort of thing. You could have like certain rows are cell phone enabled or allowed, or some rows aren't, or some theaters are. I don't know. I think this overreaction is ridiculous, and frankly, I don't know. I feel like the eat vegetables thing. I mean, like what? Like maybe some people want to do this. Why am I worried about what other people do in a movie theater that I'm not in, and I'm expressly choose? Would I want to go to that movie theater? No, I want to watch the movie. But I don't know. I mean, this whole outrage thing really kind of annoyed me. Like people, I don't know. I do let people do what they want. If people want to go to a theater and look at their cell phone, more power to them.
I want a real butter faucet in my house.
Okay, that came out of nose.
More power to you, Liam. More power to you.
Everywhere. Every kitchen should have a little faucet that you turn on that has real butter coming out of it. And then you can put it on everything. What you Brits, you put, what is that custardy stuff you get in a can that you put on things?
What, the spray on?
No, it comes in a can. It's custard or
bird's custard.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's delicious.
No, that's worse.
No. Bird's custard, with custard with a little bit of a skin on it that you just pour over an apple crumble.
Much rather
and
ever
it
a butter
just
faucet.
Slurps its way out. Oh, it's delicious.
Ian's exactly right. If you're gonna just like kill yourself, make
go
it
all the way, right?
Yeah.
No, exactly, dude. Don't waste those precious like calories on internet or movie popcorn fake butter crap.
$29.99 on Amazon, butter flavored. It's buttery. It's not butter. It's buttery.
Yeah, I know. When they say
popcorn
butter flavored,
it comes from a farm, the Wabash Valley Farms.
I'm sure. Yeah, and let me guess, it's handmade just by pressing this button on the industrial machine that makes it.
$30 a gallon. Now I just need the faucet and I'm set.
Oh, grief!
I could get a pump.
Maybe I am being a grumpy old man about this cinema thing, but it's like people who go to gigs and will spend the whole time at the gig recording it on their smartphone. I just want to go slap it out their hands.
No, I agree with you, but I for sure. But they're talking about having like theaters where it was expressly allowed, so you know what you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
Of course, in a normal movie, I want the option to be able to go to a movie without these damn young kids, on their phones Snapchatting, or So, but yeah, I don't know. It's the whole like, and I don't know. That's what annoyed me about it. Is like no one was saying we're allowing cell phones in all movie theaters. There was a proposal to allow it in some showings for some theaters.
You are just so contrarian now. You're defending this.
I know. I don't know. Is the whole, yeah. Maybe
it's a whole new Ben Thompson, ladies and gentlemen. Ben is the greatest. Stratechery. If you want to read his stuff, there's free posts every week, but you also can pay for the newsletter. I do. It's worth it. Really insightful. Ben, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for getting up a little early and spending some time with us this afternoon.
I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate it.
The second time with Iain is great.
You guys are great together. Was it last time when the Apple thing broke? I think it was.
I think it was, yeah. No, always good chatting with you, Ben. I'd say you were up really early for local time. So
wow. Well, Ben's a great guy, but you got a whole day ahead of you, Ben.
I do. I'm saying I might take a nap.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Go back to bed. Iain Thompson writes for the Register, register.co.uk. Great to have you also once again.
Always
Thanks
a pleasure.
for making the trip up. I hope you enjoyed the cake.
I have indeed been
our
munching
11th anniversary episode. I'm off to the plane. I got to go fly to Vegas. We'll be broadcasting from the National Association of Broadcasters, the NAB show, starting tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Our coverage begins. I will be doing triangulation at 11 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. Matthew Wood will be my guest. He's a supervising sound editor at Skywalker Sound, did the sound for the latest Star Wars movie, is also the voice of General Grievous in Episode 3, and in fact did the sound, I think, for the middle trilogy as well. So we'll talk about movie sound on Triangulation tomorrow at NAB. We'll be there. I'm going to be only there for Monday, but in the live view booth, if you're there, come by and say hi. But we will continue to broadcast from the NAB show all week. So Megan and Jason will be there for TNT and a whole lot more. Thanks to our producer, Jason Clanthis. Great job, Jason. Thanks to all of you for watching. We do, I want to say Triangulation. We do Twit every Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We have been now for 11 years. I didn't realize we started at 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon. It's never changed. Something to be said for longevity. That's 2200 UTC. Please stop by and say hi. Watch us live. Join us in the chat room. But if you can't, on-demand audio and video, always available after the fact for all of our shows at twit.tv, or get it at your favorite podcast app or your Twit app. They're on every platform. And just make sure you get it every week. That way you won't miss an episode. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can. See you in Vegas. Bye-bye.
Doing the Twit.